Podmortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are also available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers, free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. Original Cinematic has multiple exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, is slated for release in early 2024. Upcoming films, Fetish, Sweetener, and Run, and their documentary, Drag, the Most Targeted Art Form, are anticipated for 2024 releases as well.
Their new award-winning film, Group, is currently on the festival circuit, and very generously, Original Cinematic will be providing a link for our patrons to screen the film on Zoom. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program. Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we're recording live from a secluded house discussing the 2008 home invasion horror film, The Strangers. This film was written and directed by Bryan Bertino. In his directorial debut, Bertino utilizes an innate fear that almost everyone possesses. With the realistic scenario, authentic performances, and those striking masks, this film took the horror world by storm. The Strangers is an iconic entry into the home invasion subgenre, spawning its own franchise and cult status as a modern horror classic. This film was requested to us by friends of the show, Kristen Lofton, Megan M., David Seal, Scott Troutman-Wise, Danny Torrance 237, Amy Goodman, Skank Sinatra, and Beth Bauer. We want to thank them all for their support as well as this suggestion. So, what did you guys think of The Strangers the first time you saw it?
So I remember watching this movie for the very first time, babe. You showed me this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I know it's been some time. It's been a long time that we watched it. And for me, the movie isn't bad. I do remember being like, okay, I get it. There's just some things that were kind of like funny to me. I kind of stood out and I was just like, huh. Mm-hmm. Watching it for the show, I was able to tell now what those things were and why the movie didn't work as good for me. I will say, and I'll say this because I know we do talk about nostalgia a lot. I have zero nostalgia for this movie, like none. But I do like the stuff that they do have here. Now, it did make me think of another movie that came out in 2002 called Panic Room. Okay. Which I remember liking that a little better. But this is kind of I guess, same scenario. I don't know. It's still a room, people outside trying to get in. But, I mean,
same thing.
Yeah, same
it's
shit.
The Purge too.
The
Purge. Same thing.
The Purge. But yeah, I do like a lot of what's going on in the movie. I just feel like there's a lot of there's a trope that goes on a little too long in this movie for me, and it made me want to kind of slam my head against the wall. But I was like, all right, let's see where this is going.
I remember the first time I watched this, I feel like I'm 99% sure that we saw it in the theater together.
We did.
Because there is a story attached to it that is very, very funny. that I'm sure you will tell very shortly.
I will.
But I loved this the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think I saw it more than once in the theater.
Okay.
It was a very interesting experience. It felt like very well paced, that it just kind of goes through and you experience the horrors of this one terrible night.
Right.
And I think for me, home invasion horror works for me because of what it does. It takes this place where you are supposed to feel your safest.
Yeah.
And it makes you terrified there. It's the same with, I guess, like a Nightmare on Elm Street where you're like, you should be able to sleep.
Yeah.
This
It's just not fair.
No.
Yeah, well, the Nightmare on Elm Street kind of ended a little different than this movie.
Well,
did.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thoroughly enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street on a rewatch.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I enjoy this film and I do have that nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
But I think that there is such a hit or miss situation with the scares in this film.
Yeah.
Where some of them are so perfectly crafted, they are just expertly tense and suspenseful.
Okay, yeah.
And then other scares only make sense if we're in a different subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're like, people don't move like that.
Yes, yeah.
It's not possible to do this.
I was going to wait to call on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
we're going to talk about it.
But and I will say, you can say the same thing. And there's a lot of homages that I appreciate.
Yeah.
A lot of classic horror films that are referenced slyly and not too heavy-handedly.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy-handedly? Sure.
Yeah.
But I forgive it in a lot of those horror films because there is a feeling not of a lack of realism,
Right.
but when Michael Myers moves a certain way, you're like, he's Michael Myers.
Yeah.
You know?
But I feel like something like that, like Halloween, we get what we're getting there.
Yes.
And we understand that. This is it's like it's saying it's an everyday situation.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's where I have that disconnect.
Right.
Because this is supposed to be like the horrors of reality.
Right.
Yeah.
This can happen to anyone is basically the whole mantra of the movie,
Yeah.
which makes it scary.
Yeah.
And I will say, because as I'm watching it, I was coming up with like a twist ending rewrite.
I was too.
I'm sure it's the same.
It probably is. Because it feels that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments that feel like it's setting that up.
Yeah.
And then you're watching it and you're like, oh, yeah, that doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
But, and to be honest, I feel like that is a strike against it for me is its narrative.
Yeah.
And I feel like adding some of those things that I thought we were leading towards could help it.
Yeah.
But then it also hurts the randomness of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I know we'll talk about it later,
Mm-hmm.
but I did just want to make mention of the fact that I guess I have a fan fiction of this waiting. But no, I love the performances in this film, especially Liv Tyler.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The music is fantastic, and we'll talk about it a little bit later because the way that it's used, it almost feels as if there's no music at all sometimes.
Yeah.
It's very, very expertly done. I love the cinematography and the camera work. I love those masks
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot. And I feel like it is so clear why this film is iconic and why so many people love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also clear why a lot of people just do not like it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag, but I do have fun with it.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
My first experience with the film was at the movies with you, T, as well. And I'll just get the story out of the way. I can't remember if we've told this on Talk Mortem before because I have two stories about this movie scaring the hell out of me way after the fact. But we had got home and one of our parents was setting the alarm because it was late. Obviously we were getting home from the movies or whatever. This scared the shit out of me. And the whole point as to why this is happening really got in and disturbed me. And I feel like, not to go off on a tangent, but if I really loved this, I still have love for it and I still like it. But I think that if I had just let The Strangers exist in my memory and not revisit it, I'd be like, that movie is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's how I felt about it. But anyway, we get home, they're setting the alarm, and I tell T, I go, I know we set alarms to keep people out, but what if they're already in? Because I'm an asshole. And T was like, T was fucking pissed at me.
Well, you're trying to scare him.
I was trying to scare him.
I will say little brothers get a really bad rap. Big sisters.
It's our duty. I'm trying to prepare
You
you
are
for
duty.
I'm preparing you for the real world. Anyway, so he got all mad at me and I was like, but like making him scared made me a little less scared. So whatever.
Oh, that's great.
It made me feel better about myself. No. So everybody goes to bed and I get up in the middle of the night to get water or something from the kitchen. And I see myself. I see my own reflection in the like the sliding glass patio doors and almost fucking pissed my shit. It scared the hell out of me.
Meanwhile,
I scared the hell out of me.
Meanwhile, I'm like,
he's sleeping peacefully. Yeah. No, I'm up all night. Yeah. So it did backfire on me. But no, I really loved this. The seeming randomness of it all really disturbed me, really scared me. There is an instance and I know I'm almost positive I've told this story on Talk Mortem, but we'll get to it when it happens, that I was like, never in life are you going to catch me slipping like that. Right. And I thought that I was able to apply it to my real life, and I overreacted, admittedly. But it seeing it when I did, seeing it in the theater, seeing it at the age I did, because we were still teenagers, it really fucking scared me. And I was really shocked to learn that was his directorial debut.
I will say there are the way that certain moments play out.
Yeah.
You feel his adeptness at crafting suspense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and some moments are really successful.
Yeah.
It was interesting to me too, because I didn't realize until I was kind of digging in and researching for this that he also wrote and directed The Dark and the Wicked.
Yeah, which really shocked me. Maybe whenever it came out, I think we watched it on Shudder.
Yeah.
Scared the hell out of me in a way that a film really hasn't in a long time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it gave all of us the willies.
Yeah.
It was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
But it was during that time, I remember like none of it. I remember like 2 things from it, and that's it.
There's 2 things you can't forget.
Yeah. But I did want to talk a little bit about how the film came to be and how Bertino ended up directing it. I did get some really interesting information from an LA Times article, but Bertino said that he had been working as a gaffer on commercials and low budget films, just trying to get enough hours to get into the electricians union.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was really interesting. So like film and stuff was not his goal at the time.
Yeah. What does the giraffe have to do with electricity?
They love it. But he had written this script. At the time, it was called The Faces. And he submitted it to the Nickel Fellowship, which awards the winner with $30,000 to put toward making that script into a film.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Very cool. So he made it to the quarterfinals, but didn't win. But the script caught so much attention that he ended up getting a meeting with Vertigo Entertainment, who had just done The Grudge.
Okay.
So the meeting, they weren't like, give it to us or anything, but the meeting had emboldened him to literally quit his job and start pursuing trying to make something work with The Faces, aka The Strangers.
Okay.
And it said within days he was able to sell the script to Universal.
Good Lord.
Which it's like, okay,
yeah,
save some for the rest of us. But I mean, it's a great story.
There is something very interesting about the script that I'll talk about a little bit later with the production designer. But apparently it is very, very detailed and very well written.
It was also, and we just talked about this on Mars Attacks, but it was a lot darker.
Okay.
There was a different ending. It feels like, I mean, the story is the same, but a lot of the tone and stuff changed. So I would be interested to get my hands on that and see what it was like before.
Well, part of me is like, darker than this ending, how?
We'll talk. I know what it was. They even filmed it.
Really?
And then test audiences were like, we don't like this. So they went and changed it.
Test audiences.
Yeah.
Our mortal enemy.
We'll talk about it and we'll see what we like and what we don't like. But sold it to Universal, and Mark Romanek was attached to direct. He wrote and directed 1 Hour Photo.
Oh, nice.
Yes. But again, according to this LA Times article, because other sources was like, oh, it just didn't work out, like he dropped out, whatever. This article was like, he refused to make this film for less than $40 million because he wanted to build an entire neighborhood on a soundstage that he could control and not have to rely on CGI for like cold breath.
That is too much, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit, you know.
40 million?
For some authentic breath.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, no, I want to make it cold in here.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was interesting that he wanted an entire neighborhood built on a soundstage, but that specific reason being cited was very odd to me. And I guess it was odd to Universal too, because they were like, absolutely not. So he was no longer attached to the project. At this point, it's been like 2 years since Bertino sold it to Universal.
Yeah.
Again, with no intention of directing it, but Universal ends up kicking it to Rogue Pictures, and they offered it to Bertino if he could do it for $9 million. He said yes.
Okay.
And this is what we got.
Well, for me, I feel like such a big part of it, and some of it is sold quite well. Some of it, you're like, I don't know about all this.
Yeah.
The isolation.
Yeah.
So to build a whole neighborhood, it's like, you don't need to even do that.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm a little just like,
I don't know. And again, I'm reading all of these sources that are just like, oh, it didn't work out. Like, we see that all the time. Oh, this person almost did it. This person was almost in it. We see that all the time. So I didn't even think twice about it. And then I'm reading this article and they're like, he wanted no less than 40 million. I was like, what?
They're just spilling.
And is that really child's breath at the end of the thing, or is that CGI, or do we gotta?
Do you remember any breath at all in this?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, is that really what we're worried about? Is the breath?
I don't think
this film, no.
None of the characters breathe in this film.
Now, before we terrorize this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's open the door. The film begins with orange text on a black screen, narrated by a deep voice. What you are about to see is inspired by true events. According to the FBI, there are an estimated 1.4 million violent crimes in America each year. On the night of February 11th, 2005, Kristen McKay and James Hoyt left a friend's wedding reception and returned to the Hoyt family's summer home. The brutal events that took place there are still not entirely known. So, revisiting this now, very Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
In more ways than one. In fact, I was trying to dig and find out who did the narration, and I could not find it. I think if it were John Larroquette or something crazy like that, somebody would have spilled that by now. But I didn't realize how much, and I know a lot of films are like, this is based on a true story, whatever. The way it's done, I feel like it has to be intentionally.
Oh, yeah. I feel like for me, I don't know why I forgot about this element completely.
I did too.
I, for some reason, kind of just thought it started where it begins. I didn't realize that there was this whole, like, kind of true crime element attached to it.
Well, and it lends itself to maybe he lives next door to you, you know? But again, just like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not true. Bertino said that he lived in a secluded house when he was young. And when his parents weren't home one time, somebody knocked on the front door. His sister answered it. They said, is someone here? A name of somebody who didn't live there.
Oh, I thought it was going to...
Yeah, no. His sister said no, and they left. So come to find out, they were knocking on doors in this secluded neighborhood and breaking in and robbing the houses where nobody answered.
Oh, okay.
And so it, obviously was pretty fucking scary because I think he said his little sister should not have been answering the door anyway. But the fact that she did, whatever. But that's very scary and something that we kind of see reflected in the film a little bit later.
And I mean, I understand older siblings putting their younger siblings in peril.
I don't know anything about that, but but that obviously inspired him, as well as reading Helter Skelter and the Manson murders as a whole. And that is something that I read, that it leaned a little more Manson-y than what this film ended up as.
Okay.
I feel that very much with a lot of the methodology and writing, we'll say.
That stuck out to me as well. But he said when he was trying to write something, he was like, well, what scares me? And he thought of his girlfriend waking him up in the middle of the night and being like, I think I hear somebody in the living room. And he was like, what if I get up and I go to the living room and there is somebody in the living room?
Yeah.
And, you kind of mesh all these things together, and that's what this is. It's not any one true story.
Yeah.
But we get snippets of passing down residential streets, facing picturesque and oblivious houses. The sun begins to go down as we leave the residential neighborhood and travel down a sparsely populated country road. By the time the sun is down, we are slowly entering another neighborhood shrouded by trees. This is something that I did not remember, because it feels like we're leaving the suburban area and going into the secluded area as it's becoming night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I don't know. I think that we talked about it on Identity when the beginning's happening and you're just like, check the fuck out.
Yeah. Because honestly, you wonder the point of view you're in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So watching it now, having seen the film, I don't even fucking know how many times. It's like, oh, we're leaving to go do something.
Yeah.
But the screen goes black and an uncredited 911 operator asks the caller what their emergency is. On the other end, a young boy, Jordan, whose voice is provided by Jordan Orr, breathes heavily as he tries to enunciate that there are people here. The operator tries to get him to calm down and asks where he is, what's his address. We see Mormon Boy 1, played by Alex Fisher, and Mormon Boy 2, played by Peter Clayton Luce, standing at the end of a driveway with their bikes. We pan across and see them through a shattered windshield. The broken point of impact takes the shape of a jagged heart. As we look at the boys through this heart, Jordan admits that he doesn't know where he is. When asked if he needs help, he insists that he does. She asks his name and he tells her, Jordan. He sobs, asking for help. The operator asks if he knows what street he's on, but he bawls that he doesn't know where they are, which he did already say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mormon Boy 1 and 2 slowly make their way over to the open door as the operator asks who he's with. Jordan admits that they went into the house and they found people. A record spins silently on a record player, and a ring box is discarded on the floor among a confetti of rose petals. The operator asks who they found, and Jordan shouts that there's blood on the walls and begs for her to help them. We see blood splattered on the walls, as well as a knife covered in blood lying on the floor amongst the petals. Our view lingers on a shotgun on the kitchen counter as the operator tries to get him to calm down, but Jordan yells that there's blood everywhere. It cuts to black and we get the title in simple orange text against a black background, The Strangers.
So I will say I do enjoy films that begin like this, where we see the aftermath first. It's like that backwards episode of Seinfeld that we all loved and grew up with. But I like seeing certain elements.
Right.
See the shotgun, the ring box, the knife, all these items. And then we kind of are like, okay, well, how are these going to be?
Right.
It's
how
like
do they
clues.
end up here?
Yeah.
Kind of like you're probably wondering how he got here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a record
Yeah.
scratch, you know?
I right now this is fine. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's see what's going on. I was yelling at the children to get out of the house because you don't know if there's anybody in there. Please, I understand you're curious and you want to help, but please call from outside. But no, right now I was like, this is great.
One thing that is interesting to me, again, is just this idea of seclusion being sometimes in this film.
That's a ding for me. That's a problem.
Because, I mean, even finding what is going on here, that would insist upon the idea that it's not as secluded as...
Yeah, because why are these boys out here?
Yeah.
You know? But suddenly, we are in a car at night. James Hoyt, played by Scott Speedman, clutches the steering wheel in his hand, his eyes downcast. Next to him, Kristen McKay, played by Liv Tyler, looks up at the traffic light through the windshield. Her face is streaked with tears. They're both dressed nicely, James in a black suit and Kristen in a pale purple dress. The stoplight in front of them bathes them both in an eerie red glow, making The Strangers 2008 technically a giallo film.
You're breaking my heart. This is getting old.
It's a stoplight.
Yeah. So Traffic is a giallo film.
Yeah,
Cool.
until it turns green. Around them, the dark street is deserted, and they wait at the light despite no other cars being on the road. Their glow goes from red to green as the light changes, and James drives them further down the empty road. As they continue further, they pass trees and a lake before finally turning into a secluded neighborhood. James parks in front of a house and gets out, slamming the door behind him and causing Kristen to jump. He goes to the mailbox and takes out a stack of mail, his actions full of frustration, as Kristen stays in the car and lights a cigarette, tears still sliding down her face.
So they're not having a good time.
I would say no.
Yeah.
And that's I'm not gonna lie, another issue I have with this. I know we were talking off mic earlier, and again, watching this as a teenager, and we'll get to the reasoning behind like the tension in a moment, but I'm like, oh, dude, that sucks. You know what I mean? But watching it now, I'm like,
there's more to it.
Yeah. No, yeah.
what?
I will say it does set up an interesting dynamic from the start,
Mm-hmm.
that there is this tension between them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, whatever comes next, they're going to have to find a way to move past this for now or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but I agree that there are some parts.
There's some
Yeah.
issues. I did want to talk a moment about their casting. It was funny to me because Liv Tyler, I believe, was the first one to sign on. She hadn't acted since she had her son.
Okay.
And she was flying, I think she said from Japan to New York or New York to Japan, something like that. But it was a long flight and she had like 4 scripts to read that people had sent her. And she saw The Strangers and thought that it was going to be a comedy. And so she's reading it, and obviously it's not a comedy, but she fell in love with it. She thought that it was really interesting. She thought that it would push her out of her comfort zone because she's never really done anything like this before. And she even said that she was surprised at the strength that she found within herself to do this, because some of the shit that they had, that we'll talk about it, but they went through a lot physically.
Really?
Yeah. But obviously she said yes and she signed on. I thought it was interesting that Tandy Newton and Charlize Theron were both interested in the role.
Huh.
But I think he said his first person in mind was Liv Tyler, and she said yes. But Scott Speedman was interested in auditioning because he heard that Liv Tyler was involved. And he said that if they got her, then it's going to be something good.
Yeah.
Well, I loved her in That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unrelated, but I have to mention it.
Yeah. And I loved her in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Probably the more well-known of the two.
And I remember Scott Speedman from the Underworld movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
His name is funny.
Is that all?
I don't know if somebody named Scott Speedman is going to be listening and they're going to be like, damn it. It sounds like the superhero's alter ego.
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the Flash.
Scott Speedman?
Sure.
It is now.
Yeah, it's canon.
But the front door to a house opens, interrupting the pitch blackness inside. James steps inside after having unlocked the door, leaving Kristen on the porch to continue smoking her cigarette. He heads inside, not bothering to turn on any of the lights, and once she's left alone, Kristen puts the cigarette out and follows him in, closing the door behind her.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like that's the first thing you do
Yeah.
in a dark, secluded house at night.
Yeah. Well, dad or eat dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But he's mad.
Yeah.
So he wants to be in the dark.
Yeah.
Get the fuck over it.
No,
Over
yes.
again.
What if? Man? I mean,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But in the darkness, we hear a needle scratch, and when we come back up, lamps are lit in low lighting as Ariel Ramirez by Richard Buckner plays softly from the record player. Kristen looks around to see rose petals lining the couch, 2 champagne glasses set up next to a chilling bottle on the table with candles and more rose petals. Speaking for the first time since we've seen them, Kristen asks when he did all this. James is standing in the kitchen across the room. He tells her that he did it today with Mike while she was with the girls. He thought she would like it. He lowers his head.
I think I would hope, again, you're putting a record on. I feel like by the time you're here, it's just going to be hitting the dead wax. And it's just how long ago did you do this? It's not going to be your song anymore.
I just want to comment that we have, and it's not us, it's these movies. There are trends of just these like shitty men. And I never looked at this film in the context of this guy kind of fucking sucks. But this guy kind of fucking sucks, right?
Yeah, he's not great.
He's not. And especially a lot of choices that are made post this.
Disbelief.
Yeah.
And the little fucking bitchy attitude right now once we find out. But okay.
I will say again, I understand that he's sad.
I
get that.
I get it.
Of course I do, but I feel like he is kind of sad for the wrong reasons.
Let's get there. Let's get there.
All right.
In the bedroom, Kristen's eye follows a trail of rose petals leading to the bed. On the nightstand, there's a cluster of candles just waiting to be lit. James appears in the doorway of the adjoining bathroom and tells her that she can have this room and he'll get set up somewhere else. Kristen doesn't respond, but instead takes a few steps closer where she can see the bathtub, whose bottom is decorated with rose petals. James admits that he didn't know if the roses were supposed to go in the tub before you run the water or after. And Kristen says softly that she doesn't know either.
I don't know why this moment was kind of funny to me because it's like trying to make small talk. Like, I don't know either.
Yeah.
Can we please be normal for like 5 minutes?
Can we not do this?
Make it so dramatic.
Yeah.
James's chuckle has no humor in it. And when he looks at her, he quickly has to look away. There's another bottle of champagne chilling in the bathroom, and he picks it up on his way out. Kristen steps out of his way as he moves past her, but he comes back. He gently helps her unzip the back of her dress and unclasp her necklace before placing it in her hand and leaving the room. As Kristen sits on the rim of the tub and tries to run herself a bath, but finds the water to be murky, James sits in the living room and makes a call to the aforementioned Mike.
Now, I don't know if murky's the word for it. It looked red or it looked dirty. Something
like rusty.
Right. It looked funny. It was just for a second. But when she turned on the water, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
The evening.
It's a hit and run.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's fine. So I was like, maybe it's just like an old house. Like, I don't know. I thought it was weird too because we literally see it, but it's not a thing. But James says on the phone that he knows Mike is drunk and he might even be asleep, but he needs him to come and pick him up in the morning when he wakes up. Things didn't work out the way he thought they would at all. He apologizes, saying that he knows it's a bitch to come all the way out here, but the whole situation sucks. He hangs up the phone and can't help but shake his head. In the tub, Kristen sits in the now clean water sadly and quietly. She rests her head on her knees as rose petals bob in the water around her and more candles line the edge of the tub.
I feel like the phone call being made within earshot of her wasn't very cool.
Yeah.
I am just, okay, maybe this is like my experience with just like shitty people, but the whole like, you can have this room, I'll sleep in here. Like it all feels very manipulative and like performative almost. Things didn't work out the way I thought they would at all. He's like yelling at the bathroom door.
It's like yeah. He moves the phone from his ear.
Yeah.
Mike, can you hear me?
Dude, go outside and have this phone call.
Yeah.
You're totally right, dude. Because that the I'll set up somewhere else bugged me, but you're totally right.
No, yeah.
In a flashback, her current quiet reflectiveness is in stark contrast to her giggling and sipping champagne at the wedding earlier that night. She turns away from the people she's sitting with at the table and sees James walking toward her, his hands buried deep in his pockets. She smiles at the sight of him, and when he sits down, she continues laughing with the other guests at the table. And although James smiles, he looks nervous. He cradles her face in his hand and asks her softly to come outside with him.
I have always thought that this scene played out strangely to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's to show that James is only paying attention to her and the fact that she is there, but hearing no discussions from the table and her just bursting with laughter at a table she could possibly be sitting at alone
Yeah.
has always been very weird to me.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because I thought too while watching it, I was like, are we supposed to be, it's his point of view that nothing else, like you said, is going on, but he's focused on her. But he is acting very nervous. He does look a little off, or like something's wrong.
Yeah.
But you saying that is very weird to not have any back and forth. No other people giggling. Nobody even inaudible tones or something.
Some wedding noises.
Anything.
Wedding noises.
I just shrugged. I don't know. Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
But to have nothing and to have her reacting so bigly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. And I think that watching her interact with other people would give us more of a feel for who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we only really learn about Kristen in her reaction to her events or her reaction to James's fucking hissy fit.
Yeah.
But he carries her out into the night in his arms, and she laments that she just wanted to dance with him, but he tells her that they're dancing right now. She playfully calls him a jerk, and he reciprocates, calling her the same before they kiss. There is a deleted scene that I found online where he's like taking a shot at the bar to kind of get the courage up to go over to her at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And when he asks her to come outside, she's like, dance with me. And he's like, no, not tonight. Just come outside or whatever. And so it's her being like, I just wanted to dance. Like calls back to that. But because we don't see that at all. He's like, come outside, and they're outside. And she's like, I just wanted to dance.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
it
you
looks
did?
like he picks her up and carries her from the table.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It does.
So that's interesting.
James sets her down outside of their car. She tells him it's freezing and wants to get in, but he asks her to wait a second. He just wants to tell her something. Looking up at him, she asks, what do you want to tell me? James looks down at the ring box in his hand. Kristen follows his gaze, but when she looks back up at him, her eyes are wide and shocked. James tells her softly that he remembers the first time he ever saw her. As a car pulls out of the parking spot behind her, Kristen lowers her head and everything goes in slow motion.
I just want to say, unless the first time you saw her was meeting in the parking lot of this convention center, this is not the venue.
No.
Yeah.
I have two. I mean, we can piece together that she said no
Yeah,
at this point.
That,
I have two really big issues with the proposal, period.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, don't fucking do this at somebody else's wedding.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do not.
That-
Do not.
That's my no is, you told him no, and maybe this was a bad time to do this.
A very bad time to do this.
Well,
And
love is in the air.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
I just finished season 9 of Vanderpump Rules, and it's very topical. Let people have their own moment. Don't
Yeah.
do that. And if you're thinking about doing it, don't do it.
No.
Secondly, we learn in a moment that the issue is she's just not ready for marriage.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, and who the fuck am I? I'm just a person sitting in front of a microphone. The fact that your partner wants to marry you should not be the surprise of the proposal. When the proposal's happening, sure. Where it's happening, sure. The fact that we're on a path to marriage, to getting married, I'm at this point where this is the future that I want with you, or the fact that I'm not interested in marriage and I don't plan on getting married anytime soon.
Yeah.
Those should be things that you know about your partner before you accost her in the parking lot of a wedding and then throw a fucking fit afterwards.
Yeah, because that is something that I didn't think about either, and your sister brought it up. We had talked about it a little bit the other day, and I feel like you would at least have brought it up in a discussion at one point or another. Hey, how do you feel about, you've been together for some amount of time with your partner. How do you feel about marriage? How do you feel about us making it official? Or even if not, as long as we're together, that's what matters to you. Then okay,
Yeah.
I get it. But it never being brought up and then it being this big of a reaction from him and her and the way it plays out, it's just like, When did you guys start dating?
That
as well. I would love to know that.
the fact that this is not something she wants in her immediate future should be something that you know about her.
Yeah.
And also, again, the answer was not never.
That.
Yeah.
And so for the reaction to be, I love you, but I'm not ready for that right now or yet, that does not equal, well, I'll sleep on the couch and you can sleep in here.
The reaction is so severe. And I'll be honest, if I'm like, I'm not ready right now, and this is how you react, maybe we should fucking break it up.
On the
'Cause
cool.
I don't like what I'm seeing right now at all.
The couch is calling your name.
Yeah.
But now, Kristen still sits in the tub as an animal cries out loudly outside. James takes a gallon of Bluebell out of the freezer and plops it down on the table. I was like, hey, Bluebell!
Yeah. Dude, so of course not a sponsor, but I was very happy to see.
Yes.
I will say, from seeing it as a teenager, I thought from that this film is set in Texas.
I did too.
Okay.
I didn't realize Bluebell, and I think Bertino's from Texas, I think.
Oh, really?
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, but I did not realize that Bluebell, and I looked it up on their website. It's available in 23 states, if I am not mistaken. I feel like we're being cheated on.
I feel like we're being cheated on too. And the fact that Whataburger's not only in Texas anymore too kind of hurts.
Yeah,
That
well.
stings a little bit.
And I will say, anyone who knows that is homemade vanilla.
Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%. But James sits down in front of it before reaching into his pocket, pulling out the ring box and slamming it down on the tabletop. In the bathroom, having finished her bath, Kristen pulls her dress back on and struggles to zip it up by herself. James takes a spoon and starts to eat that delicious homemade vanilla.
Again, not a sponsor, but we're open to it, Bluebell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But he
Didn't we
eats it
just-
right out of the container.
Didn't we just try to attract Ben and Jerry's like a couple weeks ago?
Well, they haven't got back to us.
No, they haven't.
They're both really
So now
good.
we're Bluebell. We're focused on Bluebell.
Kristen steps into the hallway, and when she sees James sitting at the table, she joins him in the chair beside him. After a moment of heavy silence, she tells him that everything he did was beautiful and it was nice of him. James gives another humorless chuckle before handing the ring box over to her. When she looks confused, he tells her that he can't keep it or take it back. He pleads with her to take it before opening the bottle of champagne from the table. The cork pops loudly, startling Kristen, and James drinks straight out of the bottle. Once he's done, Kristen takes a drink herself.
So drinking champagne, that is 2 terrible experiences tonight. I hate champagne. It's just a side, just a thing about me. I just feel like, again, you are taking this way too hard in the wrong way.
Right. But
She loves you.
yeah, that's my thing. I understand your feelings are hurt, but like you said a minute ago, T, she didn't say, I don't want to be with you because you're proposing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hear her out. Let's figure out, is it yet? Is it at all? Is it something you do want to do in the future? You don't, ever, or you might, or whatever, talk. You don't have to go to this extreme
Not at all.
over this.
No.
She's like, I do want to get married, but you proposed at somebody else's wedding.
Yeah. Why not wait till this?
In a parking lot, it smelled like exhaust and roadkill out here.
And I'm freezing.
Yeah,
You
I
won't let me
told
get in the
you. And you didn't dance with me?
I get the need for, like, you feel it and it's like, let's just do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Why not wait to this place? You
Yeah.
set this up. Everything
Everything.
is nice. Everything is romantic. Do it here.
Yeah, totally agree. Noticing her dress, James tells her that her clothes are in the bedroom if she wants them, but she says that she wants to wear the dress. She only gets to wear it tonight and it makes her feel pretty. James tells her that she is pretty, and Kristen looks at him sadly. She tells him that she's sorry this wasn't the way he thought it would be, and he asks what they're supposed to do now. Her eyes filling with tears, she admits that she doesn't know. She's just not ready yet. James nods and says okay, but as Kristen starts to cry, James gets up from the table.
Again. Dude. She is handling this with such sweetness,
Yes.
such kindness and grace.
Yeah.
Even telling him all of this that you did, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You put a lot of work into it. I'm sorry that it didn't work out the way that you wanted to.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. And then she starts crying and he's like, I can't be here for this. That's unbelievable. She was there for you and all of your feelings.
Yeah.
When you're slamming the mailbox and fucking
Yeah. Got fucking bills. This is the shittiest day of my life.
It is, but again, too, and I understand her, but at the same time, she is being very patient.
Yeah.
You're also not being very reassuring.
No.
Just by saying, I'm not ready yet. I mean, I feel still be like, look, fool, we are together.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I love you. I'm here with you. Stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude.
Because he is.
Here. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're freaking out. It's like, you didn't even put the ice cream back away. It's going to melt.
Yeah, that's
you opened that champagne, then left it there after a sip.
He's taking 2
You
bottles of
gagged.
champagne.
Yeah.
That was me.
Kristen grabs his hand and pleads with him to talk to her, but James pulls away. He tells her quietly that this is embarrassing before going over to the record player and starting At My Window, Sad and Lonely by Billy Bragg and Wilco. It's too much.
It is.
It's too much. Kristen comes up behind him and rests her head on his shoulder. They both close their eyes and stay that way for a minute before Kristen turns him around and pulls him into a hug. The hug turns amorous as they squeeze and caress each other, and James whispers into her ear that she's his girl. Before long, he's picking her up and putting her onto the counter. He slides off her underwear and she begins to unfasten his belt as they kiss, but they're both startled out of the moment by a jarring knock at the door. James is confused by the intrusion, guessing that it must be 4 a.m, and when the couple look over to consult the clock on the wall, he's proven right.
I did laugh a little bit because he's like, what is it, like 4 a.m? And the clock's like, it's 4:05.
Yeah.
It is 4:05. Good guess.
Get it right.
Yeah.
Before we get into this knock at the door,
Yes.
this was a notorious moment for the three of us because we laughed so hard. On IMDb, they have a parent's guide for if you're trying to watch shit with your kids or whatever, the drugs, the violence, the sex and nudity, whatever. Under sex and nudity is some of the funniest, on a lot of movies, some of the funniest things that people have that they report.
Yeah.
I think we talked on one of the Halloween movies. They were like, a lot of breasts, not one penis.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? I wanted to share the thing that made us laugh so hard from The Strangers. A man rubs a woman's thigh. He puts his hand up her dress. He removes her panties. In parentheses, we see her bare thigh. And the man unfastens his belt. He then proceeds to, in quotes, put it in.
Put it in.
You hear a moan, and then they are interrupted by a knock at the door. I don't know what this person was watching.
No.
Yeah.
Only about like 70% of that
Yeah.
is true.
I watched this 10 times, dude. That did not
didn't
happen. Yeah.
I know. I said I wrote a fan fiction.
Yeah.
Proceeds to put it in.
Yeah.
That's the funniest shit I've ever read in my life. That's so funny. It is not, it's not that bad.
No.
But the knocking continues on the big wooden door of the house until James cracks it open. As Kristen looks from behind him, James opens the door wider. Hidden in the shadows is what appears to be a blonde woman standing on the porch. She greets him with a calm, "Hi," and James tells her hello as Kristen comes closer. James tries to flick on the porch light, but it doesn't work. The woman on the porch asks quietly, "Is Tamara here?" James tells her that she's got the wrong house. Her face still obscured by shadow, she asks if he's sure. He tells her yes and that he's sorry. The woman peers behind him at Kristen in the house beyond before finally accepting his answer. She strides away, telling them, "I'll see you later."
Come on.
Don't like that.
No.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Don't like it so much, in fact, that I definitely wouldn't choose to stay here alone
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course not.
or leave someone here alone.
Unless there were some other ideas afoot.
You know?
like a fan fiction that we'll talk about later. I will say I'm pretty sure when they pull up to the house, I feel like I remember seeing the porch light was on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this, to me, and what he discovers,
Yeah.
that's intent. That is a plan.
Right.
Yes.
And again, why aren't we talking about that?
Yes.
But I think, of course, this is one of the more iconic moments from this film.
Mm-hmm.
The line, "Is Tamara home?" Very crucial.
Yeah.
Very memorable. I feel like, and maybe it's just a pet peeve of mine, but I hate when like a telemarketer calls and they ask for someone that isn't there and they're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, I'm not hiding Tamara. Tamara does not live here.
She's in the back. You know, let me go.
Yeah.
get her.
All right, since
Okay, you got me.
you asked if I was sure, so I guess Tamara, there's a visitor for you. But I did want to talk about the music in this film very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The music was composed by Tom and Andy, who you both might recall from the Mothman prophecies.
Yes. I was
Okay,
like, I know that name.
And once you know that, you feel that.
Okay.
Because a lot of their music is really atmospheric. So much so that the first time I watched this movie for us to cover it on the show, I remarked that I didn't remember any music at all.
Mm-hmm.
But then on a rewatch, you feel how much it is a part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
The way that they use it in the sound design, and it punctuates everything almost like a soundscape.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just so interesting how they do it.
Yeah.
But I read this interview with Tom Haidu in The Natural Aristocrat, and he had said that their intention was to play with perspective in an interesting way, and to kind of experiment with ambiance and silence. And I think that is something that we recognize and we hear it, and that's probably why it blends in so well.
Right.
But one of the things that they did that was very interesting to me is they played with like soft, loud dynamics.
Okay.
And so they would have a microphone set up in a room, and someone would play a guitar or a cello very loudly, but the microphone is capturing it from very far away. Or they would have a microphone set up right next to an instrument, and someone would play something very softly. And so
That's interesting.
Alright.
yeah, and through this you kind of feel a bit of eeriness, because a loud thing from far away sounds different than, just the way that they play with it.
Well, and it really like plays with the fact that there are sounds later that we don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And, it adds to the uneasiness.
Mm-hmm. And they said they were attempting a less is more dynamic, which as well fits into what we were saying about everything just kind of blending together.
Yeah.
Where sound effects and music feel like they're all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just, I appreciated it a lot on a rewatch.
Yeah. But as soon as the visitor is out of sight, Kristen comments that the interaction was weird. James says it's easy to get lost out here and wonders if he should go after her. But Kristen tells him that she seemed fine and she would have said if she wasn't. I'd be like, are you fucking
Yeah.
kidding me?
What?
I don't know. He's like, do you think she's single? Or
Yeah.
would she marry me? Would she say yes if I
Did you
asked
see
her
the way
to marry
she
me?
looked at me? I couldn't see her face, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
If I asked her to marry me at a wedding.
In a parking lot, do you think she'd marry me? Are her and Tam are broken up? Does she?
Right, give me that ring back.
But James reaches up to the bulb on the porch and twists it. Once it's screwed back in properly, the porch is lit up. It would appear that someone had loosened it, and when we get a shot of them from the outside of the house, there are two that are on now. So that's not an accident.
This, man, why are you waiting right now to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see my guest. I need to know who's there. Excuse me real quick. Let me turn on who unscrewed this light bulb? Why are you waiting now to do that?
He's like, huh.
Yeah. Oh, that worked the whole time.
I hope she's okay. It's like, what the fuck? So this is the moment that I was like, never, never, never. We were playing 7 Days to Die. It was me and T and our parents. I was here with the kids. John Paul was at work, and somebody knocked on the door. It's nighttime. And so I'm like, oh, hold on, whatever. I have my headphones on because we were all playing online. So I take them off. I go and I look out the peephole, and there's nobody there, but it's getting dark. So I switch on the porch light and it doesn't turn on. And so I'm like, that's odd. That's really strange. So I get back on the game and it happens again. And so I'm telling them on the game, I was like, somebody knocked on the door and then there was nobody there. So I get up again. I'm like scared at this point, and I go and I look, and again, there's nobody there. I look in the parking lot out the window, and I see a random man walking around. And so I'm like, absolutely fucking not. So, and I had said, I'll be right back. Like, there's somebody at the door, and I put the headphones down, and then I'm in my own hell because this is the second time that there's nobody there. I called John Paul and I was like, there was 2 knocks at the door and I tried to turn the porch light on and it won't turn on. And I saw a random man and he's like, it's okay. Just don't open the door, whatever. So finally it happens again. And I look out the peephole and it's our neighbor who comes by very randomly. He's an older man. He's always like, oh, I picked up 2 of these at the store. Here's 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I opened the door and he's like, I kept knocking, but I didn't know if you were home. I was like, you scared me so bad. He was trying to give us brownies.
Yeah.
I was like, you scared me so bad. And then I'm standing there talking to him. And then my dad walks up and then John Paul walks up. And I was like, it was so embarrassing. I was like, it's fine. It was just him. And they're like, are you sure? Like,
and who's he?
Yeah. And then he was like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you, And I was like, it's okay. But I was like, I'm going to be fine because both of them were like, and then I thought about it and I was like, I never got back on the game. I was like, there's somebody at the door and then I just fucking disappeared. So I could see why my dad showed up. But and then I wasn't expecting you to come. But yeah, it was, and the light had just burned out. Nobody had loosened it. So, but yeah, it was the first thing I thought of was the fucking strangers when they loosened the thing so that they're shrouded in darkness on the porch. It's like, no, you're never going to catch me fucking slipping like that. I'm not opening the fucking door.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with the light bulb, again, why isn't he communicating this with Kristen?
It's not even that he's not communicating it. It's looking at him. It doesn't even look like he thinks this is strange or sinister at all. He's just like, huh.
Okay, well, what about the living room light? Turn that on then.
Yeah.
Something, you're right there. Get some kind of light on.
Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, after that, and that was a weird interaction.
Yeah, it was.
I'd be like, hey, honey, let's lock all the doors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I'm still sleeping on the couch or whatever.
Well, I'm by the front door.
Yeah.
So we're definitely.
So I'll keep you safe. I keep people safe.
Yeah.
That's marriage material.
That's marriage material if I've ever seen it.
But James and Kristen disappear into the house and we pan down the street to the nearby woods. The house is silent, but for the hissing sound of the record spinning on the player. James sits on the couch, but Kristen sits across the room at the kitchen table. The mood has been broken, and they've both sunken back into the awkwardness of their situation. Kristen breaks the silence when she sees the empty cigarette pack on the table next to her. She mutters that she's out, and James immediately volunteers to go and get her more. Kristen protests, explaining that she didn't mean for him to go do that, and he doesn't have to. She says that she'll just go to sleep because she's tired anyway. But James tells her that she won't. And when Kristen can't argue with this, she concedes that she can try.
He's like, Kristen, you are addicted to nicotine.
You're not sleeping tonight.
There is no way. I know you.
What are you doing, dude?
After what just happened?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but we see something in a second that is absolute bullshit because she is not out of cigarettes.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
true.
No, I didn't even think about
that either. There's another really, really funny inconsistency coming up that made me laugh out loud. Yeah. James reasons that he wants to drive around anyway and offers to light her a fire before he goes. Kristen comes over as he prepares the fireplace, and he tells her that while she was in the bath, he was thinking about it and he wants her to take the car back tomorrow. When she's confused, he elaborates that he just doesn't think a road trip is a good idea right now. He says that he called Mike and he'll be there to pick him up in the morning.
I will say it is astounding how he just did not at all plan for anything but yes, absolutely.
But an enthusiastic.
Like for a road trip to be planned after.
Yeah. No, but you can still do that. You guys are still together.
Yes.
Yeah. His ego is wounded and he can't get past it. It's really annoying.
I get it, but come on, dude. Again, we're here. If not, then let's take this time to reflect and let's talk about it, or let's figure out whatever. Or just you're just not ready. Let's just go have fun.
Yeah.
Let's just go have some fucking fun then.
Instead, you're gonna drive around brooding like the Batman.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
And it just
Speedman.
Yeah.
Sorry, brooding like the Flash.
It just annoys me because it's like you made this decision that you guys are going to get married clearly without any conversation or without consulting her. You've made the decision that Mike is going to go pick you up in the morning. You've made the decision that we're not going on this road trip. You made the decision that she's taking the car back by herself. Mm-hmm. That's probably why she doesn't want to fucking marry.
Yeah, that's why she said no.
There's no communication here. There's no nothing. And it narratively, Kristen at times does feel like a bit of a footnote. And that is one thing that I never really noticed and I don't really like. But she's very passive.
Yeah.
And in these moments, it's like, I just don't like James. I just don't like him. All Kristen can do, though, is nod her head and look down. After a moment, she asks if he's sure that that's what he wants. He tells her yes. And once the fire is lit, he tells her abruptly that he'll be back. He offers that they can talk more when he gets back. But if she doesn't want to, they don't have to. Kristen nods at this, and James asks if she'll be okay, and she assures him that she will before thanking him for lighting the fire.
But and even that, like after the scene ended, I was like, dude, before you guys were interrupted by Sam and you slipped it in or whatever, you guys made up. Even if you got interrupted, that's a big makeup.
Honestly,
you guys are getting intimate. You're whatever. You made up in some form. You guys are okay.
And this should bond you as well. This odd experience, of what just happened. And that I didn't even think of that. But then he shuts the door and he's like, "So you fucking hate me still?"
Yeah. We both.
It's like what? You were just about to sleep with each other on the couch.
Yes, and then this weird thing happened. We're here together.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
He literally said in her ear, "You're my girl."
Yes.
And now he's like, "It's no time for a fucking road trip."
Yeah. Gotham needs me. What?
But James quickly tells her that she's welcome and leaves. Once outside, he chugs more of the champagne bottle before tossing it out into the lawn, while Kristen stares reflectively at the fireplace. James gets behind the wheel, which is great, and drives away. Yeah. He's just adding up the charges for me. Now alone in the house, Kristen starts another record. Sprout and the Bean by Joanna Newsom begins as she pulls her hair back and plucks up the ring box from the kitchen table. Kristen slides the ring onto her finger and looks at it for a moment. But when she tries to pull it off, she finds it to be stuck.
He put glue in it.
Yeah.
It's like, I knew you'd try it on.
It's one of those Machine Gun Kelly rings.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Not that.
No, not that, though.
She gives up and leaves it on her finger before wandering the house. She plays a few notes on the piano before sitting tearfully on the couch. She gets up and gets a beer from the kitchen and continues to look around. On a door frame, the heights for James and his brother Stephen are captured in pen as the years pass the family by. Kristen is holding her beer and looking longingly at this when there is another knock at the door. As Sprout and the Bean continues eerily from the record, Kristen sets her bottle down and looks fearfully at the door. As she slowly walks toward it, there is another loud knock. Kristen approaches the door just as the knocks begin again, but she doesn't answer it. She asks, "Hello?"
I feel like at the time this film came out, I remember reading somewhere that a lot of the scares they didn't know were coming.
Yeah.
Because her neck tenses in such a real way that you cannot imitate.
Yeah.
Here, and even as the film goes on, they said they had crew members running around and banging on random walls and doors and windows. So, like, the scene that you're filming, but she had no idea when the sounds were coming, where they were coming from, how loud they were going to be. So, and you see it here. You're right. Yeah. It is very, very authentic. From the other side of the door, in the same calm and flat voice, the woman asks, "Is Tamara home?" Kristen reminds her that she already came by here. And when the woman asks if she's sure, Kristen doesn't answer. But when she hears the departing footsteps, she turns the deadbolt into place. Why are we just now doing that?
Yeah, great question.
I paused the movie for a second. You mean to tell me the whole time the door's been unlocked?
Apparently.
What the
I was mad.
And I'm sorry, be like, can I see your hands, please? Because like they're like made of bricks or something, or you've got a problem that needs attention. Is that why you're here? You need help?
Yeah, no shit.
Because you don't need to be coming to my house at 4:00, maybe 4:10 now.
Yeah, probably 4:10,
Yeah.
In the
4:15.
morning and knocking like that. And there's nothing ever said about that. Like in a real life situation, if somebody's knocking on your door at 4:10 in the morning like that, you would wrench the door open and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Do you know what time it is? The clock says it's 4:10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't think about they are chilling like it's the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or like they just had dinner and then it's like, dude, it's 4 in the fucking morning.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an ungodly fucking hour. Visibly spooked, she heads back into the house, rattled at the sound of the wind chimes outside being disturbed. Kristen goes to the sliding glass doors looking over the backyard. She peeks through the curtain to see a light flickering outside the barn. The jingling of the wind chimes continue, but when she closes the curtains, they stop.
That was something that I noticed this time that I did like, was the wind chimes.
Yeah. The fire crackles loudly, and when Kristen looks back toward the living room, she sees smoke billowing in through the fireplace. She reaches over the fire to open the flue, but the damage has been done, and the smoke alarm begins to screech.
It was like, James did that on purpose.
Thanks, James.
Yeah. Smoke her ass out. It's like, Jesus, James, you wanted to smoke, right? You needed to smoke, right?
Well,
It's like, oh my God.
Kristen climbs up on a chair, but still has to jump to shut the smoke alarm off. As the alarm falls to the ground, there's another loud knock at the door. Kristen freezes and stares at the door, her face frozen in fear.
These knocks, and again, it kind of lends to what we were talking about a little bit in the intro, of certain moments fitting a little better in other subgenres.
yeah.
These knocks are inhuman.
Yes! And there are moments where I'm like, are we telling a supernatural story?
Yes.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we should be telling a supernatural
Right.
story because that takes away from what makes this film scary. But there are moments where it's like, are
Hold
you sure
on.
though?
Yeah. And even that, I think too, saying into that, because at this time, you've come enough to where I'm going to have that fire poker is going to be in my hand.
I mean,
Yes.
You know what
yes.
I mean? Enough weird stuff has happened. The fireplace was just fine. Now this, then the knocking. Now here it is again. Why still have you not armed yourself?
Yeah.
You're by yourself. This dude took off.
Yeah.
At 4:12 in the morning.
Yeah.
According to the clock.
According to the clock.
Kristen doesn't answer the singular, abrupt knocks. Instead, she rushes to her bag and pulls out her phone. But when she finds it dead, she takes out her charger and crawls over to the outlet next to the fireplace. When she gets her phone plugged in and is trying to power it up, the knocking starts again. Leaving her phone to charge, Kristen goes into the bedroom instead to use the landline. She calls James as she peeks out the window, and she asks where he is. She tells him that girl came back, and she keeps knocking on the door. Her view from the window doesn't reveal anything to her besides a road lit with street lamps and littered with trees. She asserts that she heard her voice and that she didn't open the door. So I'm like, is James like, are you sure it was her? I'm like, what? Why is she saying I heard her voice?
Yeah.
Because she sounds like, come on.
And I'm sorry, again, this feeds into an idea that I'm sure that we all had.
Yeah.
His absence is very convenient.
Yeah. And it never occurred to me any other time watching it, but watching it now, I'm like, if I would have seen this for the first time right now,
Yes.
I'd be like, oh, clearly it's blank.
Yes.
She glances out into the hall and we get a lingering view of the smoke alarm on the floor as she tells James that her phone battery was dead and she's charging it. She changes out of her dress into a black tank top, a flannel shirt, and jeans, asking James to just come back home. She says that she's fine, but she still asks him to hurry. I'm not fine.
No.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are you? Why are you gone for, what does the clock say?
Yeah.
I believe it's 4:15.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And he's just like casting himself in a sad music video.
You know he is.
Fake plastic trees, I think.
Yeah.
As she buttons her flannel shirt and heads into the kitchen, she asks how far away he is. When her nervous hands find her last cigarette, supposedly, apparently,
Yeah.
perched on a small dish, she picks it up, asking James to just stay on the phone with her. But as soon as she asks this, the call is disconnected. She abandons the phone on the table and lights her cigarette, pacing the kitchen and dining area. As she does, in the hallway behind her, someone steps out of the darkness. In what is arguably the most iconic shot of the film, Man in Mask, played by Kip Weeks, stands in plain view behind Kristen. He wears an ill-fitted brown suit and has a dingy mask pulled over his face, holes cut out for his eyes, and a crude upturned line painted on to symbolize a sick smile. Kristen is completely oblivious as she heads into the kitchen and gets a glass of water from the tap. As she drinks, the man in the mask stands in the doorway, swaying subtly on his feet as he watches her. Kristen finally turns around to lean her back against the sink as she drinks, but when we see the doorway again, there is no trace of him.
I just want to talk about that shot, the iconic one of him kind of stepping into the frame.
Mm-hmm.
There is something about these wide shots in this film where you start to investigate everything.
Yeah.
And you fear that something may be lurking, or you just feel very uneasy and uncertain.
Right.
The cinematographer was a guy called Peter Sova, and he has credits going back to the 1970s.
Oh, wow.
I think he shot Donnie Brasco as well.
Damn.
But just the use of the camera in this film, I really appreciated a lot. The way that we get these insert shots of different items, the way that it's so wide and we feel like anything can happen. This shot in particular is just one of the best shots in the film, period.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because there is no sting.
Yeah.
There is no anything. It's just a matter of you seeing this happen, her not seeing this happen,
Yeah.
and you realizing what the fuck is going on.
That would have ruined it. Any kind of
Oh.
musical sting. And Kip Weeks had said that he and Liv Tyler were nervous about it because they were like, how can she not see him out of the corner of her eye? But when they showed it, he said that got the biggest reaction of anything in the whole film.
Yeah.
Understandably.
So I did want to see what else Kip Weeks was in, and I found that he did a Glory Road in 2006, Totally Baked in 2007.
All right.
Yes, it's a stoner film. But he also did a movie with Mark Wahlberg, Spencer's Confessional on Netflix.
What?
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I knew that you would have to talk about that one.
Oh, yeah.
Naturally.
Something else I'm realizing about when I had mentioned earlier these classic homages,
Yeah.
the stepping into the frame silently with nobody noticing you and wearing a white mask, it's more Halloween.
Absolutely. And there is a head tilt later on that I'm like, it has to be a nod. It has to be an homage.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about Kip Weeks as well because I watched an interview with him on the Scream Factory special feature Blu-ray thing. And he said that he did audition for this. There is somebody who didn't, and we'll talk about that later. It's a very interesting story, but he got the character breakdown before he ever got a script. And so they were just basically like, this is the character that you're playing. And for the audition, they said that he had to sing a folk song.
Really?
Yeah. So he Googled it and found a song called Down by the Dead Man. And he remembered that when he was a kid, he used to be able to play the spoons. So he said he went into the audition and he sang Down by the Dead Man and played the spoons for them. And so his manager called him and was like, look, you got it. They loved you. You're going to start filming in Florence. And so he's like, Florence?
Oh.
So he and his wife are looking up all these, Italian architecture, all these Italian museums that they want to go to, restaurants that they want to eat at. And then the next day, his manager was like, it's Florence, South Carolina.
Like Paris, Texas.
Yeah. And so he was like, so that was a little disappointing. But he said that he knew he had to find a way to make an impact without you being able to see his full face and without you being able to hear his voice because he does not speak.
Yeah.
He said that he had taken his child, I think he said that they were like 4 at the time, to the zoo, and they went to see the gorillas, and he's watching their eyes and their expressions and the way that they can communicate their feelings without saying anything. And he was like, that's it. The man in the mask is the gorilla behind the plexiglass.
Wow.
Okay.
So he said it is slow, simple movements, that's the key to his performance, and that was his inspiration for the character. And it is interesting because we haven't met them all yet, but there are 3 of them, and they together came up with the backstory for their characters, and they each have their own motivation for who they think the person that they're playing is. And we'll talk about that later on. But the work that went into this, when you don't see their faces, like it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the introduction of these strangers is probably my favorite thing about the film.
Yeah.
How they look, how they act, and how they move.
Yeah.
And it is borrowing a lot, but it's borrowing in a way that it's a hat tip.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But from deeper in the house, a door closes. Panic distorts Kristen's face, but she keeps her voice calm when she calls out hopefully for James. But listening to her instincts, she rummages through a drawer and pulls out a knife. She goes to the table and snatches up the phone, trying it again to no avail. We move shakily toward the hallway with her, but as the tension mounts, it's broken by a loud knock at the front door. That's something else I noticed too. Every shot has movement. Like a person, like we're watching this through ourselves and not through like a stationary camera.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until your sister brought that up to me this morning when we were preparing to record, and we were watching it again, and I was like, it does. The whole time it's never just steady.
Well, there are some moments that you don't realize it, they feel handheld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where even they're just sitting at the table and it's kind of like bobbing a little.
Yeah.
And you're like, that is true.
It's one of those where when you notice it, you can't really unsee it. And it's the whole film. But in her fear, Kristen grabs a hold of the back of the chair she climbed on to stop the smoke alarm from going off. But when she looks down on it, her face goes slack with horror. The detector that had fallen to the floor and stayed on the floor is now neatly placed in the seat of the chair. She covers her mouth, but doesn't even have time to react when a loud scraping noise is heard just beyond the front door. Kristen hurries over to her phone, which she had left plugged into the outlet by the fireplace, but she finds her phone charger cut and broken. She slinks down to the floor, panting and whispering that this isn't happening. She rocks and breathes deeply, repeating it to herself as the doorknob rattles. Loud clanging comes from outside the windows, and Kristen rises shakily to her feet. The scraping sound starts again, but this time it's coming from beyond the sliding glass door. Kristen approaches it slowly, using the blade of the knife to pull the curtains open, but jerking her hand back when the scraping gets louder and then stops. She grabs onto the curtain and rips it aside, revealing the man in the mask on the other side of the door. The two stare at each other as Kristen lets loose a horrified scream, and the man in the mask places his hand menacingly against the glass. So her screams are great. She had said that she was worried about being able to, because again, this is not a genre that she had really done before, but Bertino had told her not to practice and ruin the authenticity. I guess because like Kristen would not just be screaming every day. It should be something that is startled out of you. So he told her not to practice it. And the first time she did it on set, everyone was surprised. And it said that she had screamed so much and been so rough on her throat that she developed tonsillitis.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I am not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like the physical toll that it took, and we'll talk about her feet a little bit later, but Bertino had her and Scott Speedman running laps around the set before the scenes started so that they would be out of breath and tired and a little bit sweaty when it started. Because she was like, because we can't just start it at that intensity of not being able to breathe and whatever. But on one of the featurettes, you see her running back and forth and getting ready for him to call action so that they would already be, just beaten down.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I read in the production notes that it was shot mostly chronologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, helps too.
Yeah. Get you back to that level.
Yeah.
So not quite Raimi, but
not quite.
It's like running laps. God damn.
I did not sign up for this.
No, what are you, the gym coach from Elm Street 2?
But Kip Weeks had said as well that the moment that she sees him on the other side of the glass is when the entire film changes. And I think that's true because things have been scary, and you did see this girl come up, and the girl did come back, and you talked to her through the door, but you've not seen anything horrifying until this moment.
Yeah.
And that is, because it kind of feels more like a mystery.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, so this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, fucking with her phone and the smoke alarm and stuff. It's like, we both know that something is happening, but now it's like, oh no, I'm making myself visible to you. Like, we're ramping it up.
Yeah.
Kristen backs away, bumping into the record player and causing a snippet of My First Lover by Gillian Welch to skip and loop over and over. Kristen stares at the door as it opens in slow motion. She moves over to it slowly, hunched over with the knife out in front of her. But when she reaches the crack in the door, Dollface, played by Gemma Ward, thrusts her face towards her. Her mask is that of a doll's face. Thin arched brows, huge black eyes, bright pink blush, and a smiling mouth with pouty black lips. Her blonde hair gives her away as the woman who was asking for Tamara earlier.
I feel like this reveal is so expertly done.
Yeah.
I love, firstly, the skipping record is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
To just have in the background, but to have that accompanied by the pounding on the door and this slow motion shot of that door opening. Just that one insert shot sells everything.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we saw this and this moment happened and I'm sitting in the theater. I'm like 16, 17 years old. I'm like, guys, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can do this.
So Gemma Ward, I looked into all of them. Let's see, and her.
Let's see.
It was interesting because you look them up, and then some people do come from different jobs or other places of the industry. And Gemma looks like she had started modeling in 2002. She's from Australia. She was the youngest model to be on the cover of Vogue.
Oh,
so
wow.
She was found at 15. And at a TV show, it's a Search for a Supermodel in Australia. She was in the crowd, in the audience when they found her.
They had to search.
Yeah. Anna Wintour had selected her to be featured in the It Girl of the supermodel world. I guess it's a thing they do that's like, if this is what you do, you've made it. And modeling. I'm not very familiar with modeling myself. I'm not a male model, but
surprisingly.
Yeah, well. But that is really cool because she does a really good job in taking this role and being scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I read both her and another character we're going to introduce later say that it was very freeing to not have to worry about the faces they were making.
Okay.
And I feel like that has to be especially true for somebody whose appearance is kind of their career, or, however you want to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that we don't see her face in this at all.
I would think, honestly, being a model is kind of the perfect background to have for this role.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is a matter of a pose or having this feeling perceived from the posture of your body.
Yeah, and
That's
being able
true.
to convey so much
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
But Kristen just slams the door and sinks down to the ground with her back against it. She holds onto the knob as the shock hits her, but she quickly locks the deadbolt again and runs further into the house. Outside the door, glass shatters, and the door shakes in its frame from the banging as the doorknob rattles. The song continues to loop as Kristen runs into the bedroom. She tries to hide under the bed, but she quickly finds that she can't fit. She hears glass breaking from the living room and screams at the assailants in vain to go away. But she's startled when the banging starts behind her on the window over the bed. Not wanting to give away her location, she pulls the lit lamp down from the nightstand, and in her panic, she's unable to switch it off, and when she bangs it against the floor, we hear the crunching of glass. The light goes off, but Kristen suppresses a pained sob. The looping continues as Kristen stares in horror at the door. She crawls towards it for a tense moment, holding the knife out in front of her, but when the record scratches and the repetitive snippet of song abruptly halts, she freezes. She pants as footsteps make their way down the hall toward her, but when the person reaches the doorway, it's James.
Look.
It's a little suspicious.
That's exactly right.
It is.
And it's only feeding into our fan fiction.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's no way that he arrived on this scene without seeing any of this happening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my same note. You can't tell me this man got here and didn't see anything they did outside.
Yeah.
They broke the window. They were pounding on shit. Even if they were just smashing a brick or anything against the door, there's gonna be marks.
Yeah.
Or if the fucking light's off again, why is this light off again outside?
Anything.
Yeah.
Relieved sobs escape her as she realizes Jimmy. He crosses the room over to her, asking what's wrong, but she begs and whispers for him to be quiet because someone is out there. Really, you've seen two someones out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
James doesn't know what she's talking about, but he's concerned when he pulls the knife from her hand and finds it bloody from her encounter with the lamp. He asks about it, but Kristen just jumps up and closes and locks the bedroom door. She slides a chair in front of it, but James pulls her away, trying to quell her panic. He sits down on the bed with her, and she explains that she saw a man at the back door wearing a mask. James is like a ski mask?
That pissed me off. Does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
But Kristen's like, I don't know, a fucking mask. She breaks down and sobs, and James finally stands and picks up the knife from the floor. Kristen sobs and confesses that she's just so scared. But when James pulls the chair from the door and readies himself to open it, she pleads with him to stop. In a low voice as calm as he can muster, James assures her that he's right here and it's okay. He opens the door and steps out into the hallway to find absolutely nothing. He tells her that there's no one there and asks her to come over to him. He starts to walk down the hall, and after a moment, Kristen comes out of the doorway of the bedroom. She follows James as he checks a spare bedroom and even slides the curtain to the side in the bathroom.
I didn't like the way he looked at her after he did the shower curtain.
No,
Yeah.
I don't like any of this because she said there's someone outside.
Yeah.
So even if you check every inch of this house and there's no one here, that doesn't discredit what I just fucking said. There's someone out there in a mask.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're not just tired?
Yeah. Are you on your period?
Oh,
That's why
God.
you said no, right?
Oh,
He's right there.
He's even worse
He's
than we thought.
right there for me.
Well, I was waiting, and I was like, he's gonna say that there's nobody in the house or there's
Yep.
not whatever, and then he did, and I
Yep.
was like, there it is. I was like, come on, dude, you're just falling in line with what?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The trope.
Yeah.
Mhm. They go into the kitchen, and in a close shot of the fire still burning in the fireplace, we see that Kristen's phone is among the flames.
I think we'd be able to smell that.
Yeah, no,
I just,
Of course.
just thinking out loud. Someone burning plastic in
If
here?
that's a
Yeah.
Nokia, it's fine. Like, it's totally fine. Once they reach the garage, James is sure that the house is clear, but Kristen doesn't look so convinced and climbs up to look out of the high window. She stares in a stunned silence, and when James asks what it is, she says, "She's watching us." James climbs up to look with her, and he finally sees her. Dollface stands in the middle of the grass outside the window. Behind her is the still and deserted road, and her lone figure is illuminated by the streetlights.
This reminded me a lot of Michael Myers through the classroom window.
For sure.
I like it a lot.
Kristen says that she's watching them, and James admits that she looks like a ghost. He asks if she wants him to go talk to her, but Kristen maintains that they don't want to talk. James reasons that they must want something. People don't just stand there staring like that. They want something. He looks back at Dollface and mutters, "Shit." He tells Kristen that he left his phone in the car and he's going to go out and get it. Kristen whispers that he can't go out there, and James is like, "Why?"
Oh my God. There's
nobody out there.
I was pulling my fucking hair out.
This dude, clearly all three of us feel the same.
Yeah.
But I think that's, again, what hurt it for me was just that. He continues to be this naive or this whatever. I don't know. It's very weird.
I think that's part of me being like, he can't be this ignorant.
Yeah.
And this blind to what's right in front of him unless he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless
And-
he's pretending to
Yeah.
be.
Exactly, because there's no way a person would normally act like this.
No.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Yes, right. But Kristen reminds him that one of them came inside and took her phone. James tries to object to this and tell Kristen that no one came in here, but they both look back at the window to find that Dollface is gone.
And again, him saying she looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Starting to, I mean, they're leading down several paths.
Yeah.
Never having seen a horror film before, James steps outside. Kristen watches him from the doorway, but James stops in his tracks when he sees that the windshield of his car has been smashed.
Can we talk about how they ruined his car and we heard none of it?
None of
Yeah, no shit.
it. Nothing.
Jerry Dandridge out here, but just nothing happens. Like,
Yeah.
Even he made noise.
Yeah.
He was supernatural.
mm-hmm.
He jingles his keys between his fingers, his other hand still gripping onto the knife. He turns when he hears rustling in the trees behind him, but continues toward his car, his shoes crunching on broken glass. Upon closer inspection, every window in the car has been busted out. James leans into it and finds that the wires inside have been cut and the huge hole in the windshield is in the shape of a jagged heart. Inside, Kristen has closed the door and chews on her thumb nervously. James gets into the car and slowly backs up a little bit. As he leans down toward the floor and rifles through the glass and discarded empty packs of cigarettes, someone creeps up behind him. We see their hand hovering over the back of his neck before giving him an impish poke. With a musical sting and a gasp from James, he turns around in the seat, brandishing the knife. But there is no one there.
This is where you lose me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't like this either because it feels supernatural.
It does. And there's no way that anyone can do that and get away that quickly.
Yeah,
and
no.
Kristen's watching from the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't like, James, look out!
Yeah.
She's trying to touch your neck.
Maybe she was turned around. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
She's distracted too. He hops out of the car and the street is seemingly deserted. But when he closes the door and looks out onto the road, Dollface stands there. He asks what she wants, but when she doesn't respond and stares back at him, he tells her to get the fuck out of here. There is rustling in the trees and someone literally runs by, but James is distracted when Kristen calls his name from the porch. He tells her to go back inside, but she asks what's happening. There are more strange banging and faint screeching sounds, and when James tells her again to go back inside, she listens and closes the door behind her.
You got it, boss.
Yeah. No. So let's cut off our communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's separate ourselves. Lock the door while you're at it, so that if I need help, I can't get in.
get back inside.
And if you need help, I can't get in there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What?
It makes perfect sense. James turns back to the street and finds Dollface gone now. He starts to walk down the road, the knife still clutched in his hand, but he stops when he hears the snapping of twigs and the faint whirring of power tools. He continues to pace around, looking in every direction, but finding nothing. He makes his way back up to the porch and stands with his back to the door, taking one last look. When he opens the door, Kristen reaches out for him with a musical sting and scares the shit out of him. She apologizes, explaining that she was waiting for him. He immediately tells her to get her things together and put her shoes on. He asks if she was able to find her phone, but she reminds him again that they took her phone. He tells her that he put it in her bag, and he starts to look through it himself, but she tells him that she even had it plugged into the wall. They took it. It's like when your kid can't find something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, I took it out. I had it. I know it was in the bag.
Yeah.
James stops searching, but admits that he doesn't understand because they searched the entire house and there was no one there. The two sit at the table, and James inspects the mess she made of her hand as she winces. He takes off his tie and wraps it around the deep, bleeding cut in the middle of her hand. He tells her that he doesn't understand how the entire time they've been here, he hasn't heard one dog bark or one car drive by. He says that it's just us and them. That sounds supernatural to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, I understand the tensions are high and things are moving very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But you are in a home, and maybe we should clean that cut before you wrap your dirty tie around
Oh yeah.
this open wound.
No, let's add an infection to the list.
Because you literally don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in a
right.
house.
Yeah.
You're not in some cabin you found.
Fresh tears coming to her eyes, Kristen asks why they're doing this, but James tells her not to think about that right now because it doesn't matter.
What?
Sounds like something that someone would say.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of sounds like a guy who got told no and doesn't want you to think about what's happening around
Who's a
him.
little bitter about it, maybe.
Yeah.
He cradles her face and she seems to calm down a little, but then he says that they won't need a reason if they come through that door. Thanks, James. James gets up and starts to walk further into the house, but he freezes. A silver flip phone rests on the counter, its battery removed. He picks it up in shock, and when Kristen asks what it is, he tells her that it's his phone and they need to get out of here. I'd be like, oh, now we believe that they're fucking with phones. Okay, cool. We cut to the couple making a beeline for the car. James is somehow wearing his tie again, which made me laugh out loud because he just tied it around her hand.
I did not notice this at all. Your sister showed me this morning, and I was like, "That's fucking."
I laughed out loud.
That's funny.
Does it regenerate like Homer's beard?
He went back to the closet. He's like, I can't go out. like
Yeah.
this."
Oh, no.
We're going outside. Yeah.
It's an outfit.
They can't see me like the man in the mask has a suit. Why can't I have a full suit?
But Kristen is still barefoot, and that really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
Bertino had talked about seeing Liv Tyler's bruised and like hurt feet in real life, not as the character. He said that it made him feel guilty and made him wish that he had wrote in the script, Kristen puts on shoes. But he didn't.
But you are making the film.
You are, yeah.
And at
I'm
any
like,
time.
damn, dude.
Yeah.
But they said, I read a thing that said that she had gotten so like bruised and cut up that they, as the film goes on, were putting makeup over that and putting on their own wounds because hers looked too bad.
Jeez.
Yeah, like they worked their asses off on this.
So that's a little more Raimi than
A little more.
Yeah.
He's like, no, take your shoes off. Go run those laps. It's like, what?
It's a little more Tarantino. Part of it.
That part was. I'll give you that. They get inside the car and James slowly backs the car out. But just as they settle onto the street from the driveway, a big truck with blazing headlights rounds the corner. It's just now occurring to me, what wires were cut if they're still able to be moving the car?
The windshield
I don't know.
wipers.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know anything about cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
or
don't
the
know.
radio or the AC.
That's true.
Like, it's gonna be hot.
We can't listen to any music, but we
Yeah.
can get out of here.
Yeah, no, if we're in the South, just kill me. I'm not leaving without the AC
No.
intact. Kristen asks who it is, and James answers that he doesn't know, but the truck stops right behind them, the brightness from the headlights filling the back window of their car. But suddenly, the lights turn off. The person behind the wheel is shrouded in darkness, but when she leans forward into the glow of the street lights, we see Pinup Girl, played by Laura Margolis. With thin arched brows, long eyelashes, pink eyeshadow and blush, a bright red lip, and slick black hair, Pinup Girl's mask peers at them from behind the windshield.
I really want to talk about their masks just for a second. I wanted to wait until everyone was introduced.
Yeah.
I read in the production notes that Bertino was hoping to accomplish this feeling of obviously originality with the masks, but also something that could be procured quite easily by anyone.
Right.
Okay.
And so I feel like he did it perfectly because especially the man in the mask is just a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
His is the scariest.
Yeah. These other masks, though, they're made out of vacuum form plastic. And so they were made for the production and they were designed painstakingly. They went through several iterations before they settled on these.
Okay.
And I feel like it does strike that balance so perfectly because this does seem almost like a Halloween mask.
Yeah, it does.
That you could just find in a store, but it's also so iconic and original in its own way that you can see how this took off and became such a striking image and honestly a perfect Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that they did discuss is how it creeped out all the actors on set because it's like Scott Speedman had said it's like a shark's eyes looking at these masks.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't read any emotion from them. You can't read anything. It's just a plain face. And I can imagine how that would be quite frightening.
Yeah.
They said themselves, the actors behind the masks, that there's almost a power to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you feed off the energy that you inspire with the mask from the other actors.
Right.
And it kind of inspires your performance and gives you a different way to move in a scene, so to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say for me personally, I feel like Dollface and the Man in the Mask get a lot of
Flowers.
Mhm.
Yes. I feel like Pinup is kind of the Michelle of the group.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair
Yeah.
because I think that she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was interesting too. I watched an interview with Laura Margolis who had said that she showed up to film a week after the four of them were already doing this.
Oh, wow.
So I wonder if that kind of adds to her feeling like, I was reading, I think in the production notes where one of the producers was like, she's the meekest one. And I don't read it that way. And they don't interpret her, the people behind the masks don't interpret Pinup Girl that way either.
No.
Yeah.
Laura Margolis and I believe Kip Weeks as well both called her the brains and the brawn behind the three of them. Because if you think about, she's the one physically doing shit.
Yeah.
What I feel, the vibe that I get is I get like Man in the Mask and Pinup Girl are married. Dollface is the daughter. That's how I see them.
John Paul said something interesting as well.
Yeah. To me, I took it as he was their father.
But I think that's part of what makes it so scary is it could be either of those. It could be neither of those. Like we have no fucking idea. But the way that she got this part, I thought was really interesting. She had talked about in that interview, knowing the casting director for this film. They were casting for the role of James in LA, but Liv Tyler was in New York. And so the casting director called her to come and do the chemistry reads with them, kind of like as a favor. So she went and she was reading Liv Tyler's parts in the auditions and was like, this script is really cool. She ended up reading it, but she was like, there obviously is not a part for me in it. So she just thought it was a cool thing that she read. So then the casting director called her and was like, do you want to do Pinup Girl? And she was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a really interesting way for kind of the pieces to fall into place.
Yeah.
Because she does a really great job. And she talked about physically, she's the smallest out of the three of them. And so she thought it was really important to kind of channel an anger for this character. And she does do shit physically like we see right now with the truck that the other two are not doing.
No.
And then something else that happens later on, she kind of is like, oh no, we're not gonna be doing this.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting, the depth that's put into the three of them.
What is meek about that destruction?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
And real quick, Laura Margolis, a couple of things that she has been in. She did Dirty Sexy Money from 07 to 09.
Oh.
She also did The Ballad of Danko Jones in 2012. And she did Masters of Horror in 06.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Some of those were pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah. But James is immediately like, get out of the car. But they turn back around and Kristen gasps in horror. Through the hole in the windshield, man in the mask looms. James is dumbstruck, and before he can do anything, Pinup revs the engine of her truck and slams into the back of the car. James opens his door and climbs out, telling Kristen to do the same, as Pinup Girl backs the truck up to ram the car again. I watched on a featurette that there were stunt people in the car and behind the wheel. Laura Margolis talked about 2 instances where a stunt performer played Pinup Girl, and she was like, I want it. You could tell she wanted to do it herself, but they wouldn't let her. But the stunt coordinator, Cal Johnson, talked about they brought the truck back and they rammed it at 15 miles per hour. Then they brought it back again and rammed it at 25. And the stunt performers they're in the driver's seat and the passenger seat. Damn. And then they backed up one more time and did it again at about 20 miles per hour because they said the car was already fucked up, but they wanted another shot of them rocking inside of the car.
Okay.
And in that little featurette, the stunt performers get out and they're thanking them. And the woman that was, I guess, sitting in for Liv Tyler was like, this better not end up on the cutting room floor. And it didn't.
Good.
The 2 sprint back into the house. James checks the back door and finds it open. He slides it shut and locks it. Kristen implores that they need a gun, but James is searching the shelves of a bookshelf. She asks if his dad has one, and he snaps at her angrily that he's looking. He says that there used to be one here when he was a kid, but his dad would always hide it. Pinup Girl honks the horn outside, but James reaches to the top of the shelf and finds the unassembled gun. He gets the pieces together and tells Kristen that they should go to the bedroom. When they step into the bedroom, though, the curtains on the window above the bed are pulled open, and written over and over again, maybe in blood, is the repeated word, hello.
On the inside.
On the inside.
Yeah.
Which is troubling. Am I wrong? But whenever everything happened with the car, would you have ran back inside?
I would not have stopped when she pulled up behind me.
That's yeah.
John Paul had said earlier, just run the dude over because he's standing in front of the car. It's like, I'm sorry, a car beats paper beats rock. Like,
that bag
I'm mowing his ass over. No.
He's like, well, we can't go forward. Why?
Yeah, why not, dude? Not only that, if you're out here in the open, there's probably a chance once you go around the backyard, you can get out the other side of the house.
Yeah.
True.
No, the whole thing was foolish. And it feels like there are these moments where it's like, oh, we can do this. No, run back into the house. Oh, we can do this. No, run back into the house. And it almost feels like, I don't want to say pointless because there are good moments of tension, but after a certain point, it's just like, just let him stay in the fucking house.
Yeah.
Well, because they're like, regroup.
Yeah.
What?
Why are we doing this? James checks that the bathroom is empty, but Kristen stays behind, staring at the words in disbelief. Suddenly, the strangers outside start to throw mud at the glass, splattering it with loud bangs.
That's a little juvenile.
Yeah.
I say mud because I'm assuming it's mud.
Yeah.
Oh. No. Kristen and James rush to the closet. There is a deleted scene with the 2 of them hiding in that bathroom, and I don't know if it would have gone here, but I don't know when it would make sense for it to go. Maybe that's why it was deleted, because she is wearing the flannel. She's not in the dress. But she's talking about, I guess, them not getting engaged. And she remembers her father calling her to let her know that her mom had passed away. And she left to take the call in the bedroom. And James came in and consoled her. But she was questioning why she didn't think to call him to console her, to want him in that moment.
Okay.
That she was glad when he came, but why didn't she think or want to call him? And so it's it's this moment of them kind of reflecting on their relationship. And I think it's just to add a little more depth of who they are in their relationship, and like her saying that she loves him, but maybe she hasn't fully, I don't know, but I'm like, this wouldn't be the moment to do that. I don't know when would be the moment. Maybe before all of this started would be a really good moment to add more character to them and speak more to their relationship.
Okay.
Well, because I mean the timing. They everything that just happened outside. They're slinging him under the thing. And you go to the bathroom, and she's like, I was thinking a little bit earlier.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so no.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that could have been
right.
a conversation to have at the table.
Yeah.
There you go.
Before they started to put it in or whatever.
Right.
But I would like more of who they were before this moment, because when we meet, she's crying and he's fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
I would like to know them more as a couple, to know more about either or both of them individually. It was just a weird scene to have in that moment of them hiding. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they rush into the closet, and James immediately starts to look through shoe boxes. And when Kristen finds out he's looking for bullets, she snaps into action and starts searching. But James finds what he's looking for, a pink shoebox filled with shotgun shells. The two sink to the floor, and James struggles to put the shotgun together. He admits to her that he doesn't know how to use it. He doesn't even know if he can load it. Her brow knitted together in confusion, Kristen reminds him that he used to go hunting with his dad, but James confesses that he never did. It was just something he said.
Dude, what the fuck? Are you serious?
At least he's being honest now.
No, I
Well, the chips are down.
yeah,
We need this gun.
Do you know how to put it together?
Did you ever go hunting with your father, actually? For me, with the fan fiction that's being written, I feel like this would be an excellent moment of foreshadowing to say, maybe you're not who you claim.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's probably something that came up in conversation. He was like, oh, yeah, like totally. And then he's like, this is never going to come back and bite me in the ass.
We're never going to have strangers descending upon our home.
But I mean, did you just not go, or did you not pay attention, or did you
Yeah, what do you mean? He was like, no, I never did.
It's just something I said.
Yeah.
He does manage to put the gun together and stands with a handful of shells. Kristen stuffs more into the pocket of his suit, and they head back towards the front door. He tells Kristen that when he opens the door, he wants her to run. But with these words barely out of his mouth, someone outside uses an axe to start breaking through the door.
Another reference, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Take a shot.
Yeah. Kristen screams at the top of her lungs, and James rushes over to her. When he tells her to block the door, she stops screaming, and the two work together to wheel the piano over. But the assailant continues to swing the axe, knocking into the top of the piano. Kristen drops to the ground and loads the shotgun as James throws chairs at the hole in the door. She hands the gun over to him, and just as the man in the mask appears in the huge hole he's made in the door, James fires. Everything goes quiet, and when the dust settles, no one is standing in the hole in the door.
Supernatural feeling.
Yeah.
Again, did he really just too fast?
Yeah, no shit.
A shotgun
Some
blast.
Mossberg. I don't know how fast you get away from that.
I did want to talk about this house and the production design.
Mm-hmm.
I read in the production notes and I saw a little featurette on the Blu-ray, but they were talking about, firstly, these exteriors of the home are real on location.
Oh.
Okay.
And it was all part of location scouting, and they found the perfect specifications for what they needed. They only made a few modifications to the actual home, which was obviously the door. They created several of them because
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sliding glass door was not a part of the actual house. They had to put that in.
Okay.
But the interiors, the production designer is a guy called John Kretschmer. He did 81 episodes of Homeland.
Oh.
But he was also in the art department on The Crow, The Exorcist 3,
Oh.
Okay.
and the remake of The Blob.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Very nice.
But he was talking about the detail in the script,
Yeah.
because from the script, he was able to construct a floor plan to make all of these scares accurate in the places that Bertino described.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about it is he took his floor plan to a meeting with Bertino, and it almost identically matched the floor plan that Bertino drew years before.
Wow. He must
Hell
have really
Yeah.
explained it, or
Yeah.
like, that's really cool.
But he had said that since the lion's share of it takes place in one location, they had to finalize the design and the construction of everything before shooting began.
Yeah.
And so they got everything in order. I believe they said that it took 2 weeks to design, 2 weeks to draw the blueprints, and 4 weeks to build.
Wow.
And so they built these interiors on a warehouse set in South Carolina.
Okay.
Since they were filming there.
In Florence.
Right.
Yeah.
But he conferred with Bertino and Peter Sova, the cinematographer, the entire time because you're having to get these scares in order for the camera to be able to move through it to make sure that it's to Bertino's specifications.
Yeah.
They actually worked on the storyboards together.
Okay.
To make sure that everything flowed and worked properly. But the set decorator was a person called Missy Barrett, and she captured a 1970s aesthetic based on Bertino's specifications.
Yeah.
Because you feel that this is the tone they're trying to capture.
Yeah.
And it fits so well. That's another thing that I was so confused by is to say, you know, in the John Larroquette thing at the beginning, that's not John Larroquette.
Yeah.
In 2005 or whatever.
Yeah.
We could lose the cell phone bit completely and just have this set in the 70s.
You
Okay.
really could,
Yeah.
actually. I was thinking the 70s kind of dressing because this is the family home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that too.
Yeah, but yeah, you really could. That's weird. Oh, but then you got to kill the boys calling 911, like all of it.
Well, but they can call.
All right.
I mean, they could use the house phone or whatever. Find one, run to a neighbor's house.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Which is about 15 miles away.
Apparently, because again, all the screaming and shotgun blasts and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No one
No.
is like, are you guys okay over there?
But you are right about it being like a family home, and that was one of the things they wanted to capture.
Yeah.
And it does feel lived in.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. But they rush into another room where they take cover behind a couch and some boxes. James rolls up his sleeves and loads the gun. He tells her that they are not going to fucking die here. He says they'll sit and wait for the cops to come, but they are not going to die. A door opens from deeper in the house and footsteps start towards them. James readies the gun and the two go quiet as they wait. But the footsteps stop and the record player begins to play Mama Tried by Merle Haggard.
Something that was pretty interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking into this song and I learned that the backing band of Merle Haggard is called The Strangers.
Oh, shit. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But we get shots from all over the house. The empty living room with its comfy fire, the breeze blowing through the curtains on the sliding door that James just closed and locked, the shadowy hallway, and the spinning record. James and Kristen take shaky breaths as they wait and the music plays. Out on the dark street, a vehicle pulls up and parks on the curb. Behind the wheel is Mike, played by Dennis Reynolds himself, Glenn Howerton.
Yeah.
The Golden God?
Oh, yeah. A full point or two just for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember when we were in the theater and saw it for the first time because we were already fans of Sonny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shocked.
Well, yeah. You're not
Just-
expecting this.
Yeah.
But sounding a little tired, he calls James's phone and leaves a message. He tells him that he's outside. He got here early because he just decided to come out and be there for him. He jokes with a smile that he loves to wait on him hand and fucking foot. But before he can finish his message, something comes crashing through his windshield, shattering it.
Where did this break
Yeah.
come from? Like, that's
They're up in a tree.
Yeah, like, but that's like fucking quarterback level.
Yeah, on the cool.
Like,
They hit it right in the center. It was
Yeah.
like, what?
Startled, Mike jumps out of the car and looks around. He walks up the driveway and finds James's car with its similarly shattered windshield with the hole through the center of it. He looks toward the back door where Mama Tried continues, loud but muffled. He picks up a crowbar from the ground and cautiously steps into the house. As soon as he's gone, Dollface peers out from the shadows. Mike walks through the open door and comes out from behind the curtains. He sees what he and James had set up earlier, but in disarray. He looks with concern at the broken glass on the floor. walking past the dining table with lit candles lined up on top of it, which I don't think were lit before.
Yeah.
That now they're getting into ambiance?
Yeah.
Gotta set the mood right.
God damn.
Mike peers down the hallway. He stands before it, hesitating. When out of focus behind him, the man in the mask steps up, cocking his head in a very Michael Myers-like way. Mike steps forward slowly, the music still crooning as man in the mask follows him with his axe at the ready. The tension builds as the song ends, and Mike turns his head slightly as if he hears something behind him, but he doesn't see the man and he doesn't turn around. He continues forward slowly. He steps in front of the room that James and Kristen are holed up in, and he is only able to say the word, "Hello?" before James pulls the trigger and Mike goes down. Silence descends after the seismic blast of the gunshot, and James drops the shotgun, his hands shaking. The spatter of blood slowly oozes down the wall, exactly what the boys saw at the beginning. Shaking and his eyes filled with tears, James whispers, realizing that the man he shot should have had a mask. Why didn't he have a mask?
Such a short role for Glenn Howerton,
Yeah.
Yes.
but such an iconic moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, the tension of this is so good.
It's really
Yeah.
great.
When you hear the music playing, it stops, the hello, and
Yeah.
also bad choice of words to say the one thing they've been writing fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, "Is Tamara home?"
Like, I'm sorry. That's my greeting. I always say that.
I say that to everyone.
But the fact that he was dead either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if James didn't get him, the man in the mask would have.
Yeah, but I feel like, man, if I come in and I see something that I helped my buddy do is all fucked up, I don't think I'm gonna wait until I'm probably gonna be like, "Hey, Jimmy, you here? James, or, anything." If this dude is behind me with some kind of puncturing weapon or something, I feel like I might want to take my chances with that over what's fixing to happen when I go by the door.
You know what else I was thinking, though? James on the phone, and he's like, "It did not go well at all."
Oh, yeah.
And Mike's like, "What the
What
fuck?
happened here?
The
Oh,
car,
Yeah.
the everything." He's like, "What did?"
Yeah.
He's
Is
like,
this what that means?
I need you to come pick me up.
Yeah.
I've done too much.
But Kristen is confused by this, by James saying he didn't have a mask on. But James just crawls out into the hallway. Lying in his black suit and crisp white shirt, the right side of Mike's face is blown off as he rests in a spreading pool of his own blood. I did see on a featurette they were talking to makeup artist Vincent Schicchi. He did Glenn Howerton's prosthetic. I was looking at his IMDb. He's done makeup and effects on like Dogma,
Really?
Requiem for a Dream. He worked on The Sopranos, Across the Universe, American Gangster, the Sex and the City movie.
There you go.
Oh, all right.
I was like, what? And the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Mm.
Oh.
They're not Spider-Man. but-
Yeah, they're not amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the all right Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man
okay.
films.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool. He
Yeah.
said a lot of cool shit.
For
but
sure.
he said that the prosthetic took 3 hours to put on Glenn Howerton.
Damn.
And that they had 2 versions. They had this one, which is the fresh kill. They called it. It's like wet. It's bloody. And then they had the one that he called Mike is Going Bad, which he obviously does not get back up. This is the end of Mike. And as we see him later on, it's drier. It's grosser. And it was funny, but in that thing, it showed Glenn Howerton with the prosthetic on, just hanging out at craft services and like eating. And Bertino came up and pretended to like dip a chip in the blood on his face.
Oh,
And he was
that's
like,
funny.
"Ow!" Yeah, it was cute.
You think he talked to the gang about the role and everything?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that. I think that'd be cool.
But shock and panic overtakes James and he collapses into tears. Kristen calls out in a whisper, asking what happened. But between sobs, James tells her to just stay there. Kristen crawls forward. Before she can get to him, James turns and forces her down onto the ground.
It's a little aggressive.
It's very aggressive. She screams for him to get off of her, but when he whispers to her that it's Mike, she breaks down and sobs. James punches the door as he continues to cry. Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, if that's your reaction.
Yeah.
He just murdered his friend. We're like, ew, brother,
Gives me that.
Ew, just see him punch that door.
I will say, keep this in mind and these reactions because it plays a big part in my fan fiction.
All right. After a moment, Kristen goes to console him, assuring him that it wasn't his fault. But James doesn't seem to accept this. He picks up the gun and heads out into the hallway, stumbling over Mike's body. Kristen follows, sobbing as she creeps down the hall past their fallen friend. She coughs and gags before following James into the living room. It feels like she throws up and like they cut it out. That's what it looked like to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're getting it.
Yeah. Because we don't need to see that on film anymore. I believe it.
Right, just make the noises. I don't want to see.
Yeah.
We're good. But don't
Unnecessary.
make too much noise.
Yeah. 2 noises.
She asks him where he's going in a whisper, but he doesn't answer her. His shirt stained with his friend's blood, he loads the shotgun and turns toward her. He tells her that she needs to hide somewhere because he's going outside.
All right.
Why?
See, again, you're separating.
Yes.
Too much.
It's always with the split up with you, dude. Why?
Yeah.
What?
It feels like this is his moment of like, I got nothing to lose now because he killed his friend, but it's like, Kristen's right here.
Yeah. Did you ask me to marry you earlier? Dude?
Yeah.
We've seen at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
And you're leaving her alone in this house. And
what kind of fucking instruction is that? Will I hide or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
They've been slipping in and out of this house.
No
you
shit.
fucking like a demon's whisper.
Yeah.
You fucking figure it out. I don't know.
I'm taking our only weapon.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
That is proven can kill.
Yeah.
It's got a high success rate. But he says he's going to the barn because there's an old radio there and he can try to call for help. I feel like that would lean more into us if it were taking place in the 70s because it's like, I don't know. He tells her that he doesn't know what else to do, but he assures her that it's okay and he'll be back for her. He thundergunned her.
Yeah.
He goes toward the sliding back door, which is shut now, but written neatly in red is the word killer.
That is fucking hilarious.
It is.
Because if you think about the logistics of this, the man in the mask is walking down the hall. He's like, oh, well, I guess James will take care of this.
Yeah.
He leaves, and the first thing he does is like, hey, pinup girl, give me your lipstick. I gotta really hurt his feelings.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's just to hurt his feelings.
Period.
This hits him, but he turns to Kristen and tells her to go hide. He promises to keep them away and that he'll come back and find her. She pleads that she wants to go with him, but he assures her that he'll be fine. He opens the sliding door and steps out, giving her a lingering look before heading away.
What do you mean you'll be fine?
Yeah.
What about me?
He's like, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out of this smelling like roses. Kristen whispers for him to be careful, but stays in the open doorway. She whispers his name, but he doesn't come back. Kristen steps out into the back porch and looks through the trees at the barn. James is making his way over, the shotgun ready as he steps out of the tree line. Kristen goes back inside, but is panicked to be there alone. Outside, James hides in the trees as the pinup girl steps out of the barn. She wields a huge flashlight as she looks out at the trees. James hides at first, but lying on the ground, he swings his gun around and aims it at her. She seems to spot him and shines her light as she steps toward him. Before James can shoot, though, he hears someone running up behind him. He turns just in time for the man in the mask to run up and kick him right in the face.
What is this?
I
What-
don't know.
Look, there are some parts of this that are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I will say her turning around. Like, it seemed like the pinup girl knew that he was there the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that turnaround was just like a gotcha.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, dude. him with the gun.
Yeah. That part.
Yeah.
That part.
And the man in the mask still has time to run up and kick you unconscious in the face.
Boy, he was hauling ass like Walter from Get Out. Yeah, he fucking ran up on him. I was like, why?
He did.
Like, what the fuck?
But you hear dum, 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 dum,
Yeah.
dum. You hear his feet.
He's like, is that Kristen? No, dude.
Why are you the one with the gun?
Yeah.
I don't feel like you should be the one with the gun.
See, why are we separating?
Exactly.
Yes. Kristen hears the gunshot go off. She whimpers and looks horrified, but she walks right outside. I was like, Kristen, what are you doing? She whispers James's name, and when her only response is the creaking of an old swing set, she sits down on the porch. We linger on her as she rocks herself back and forth. Meanwhile, the man in the mask is in the house now. He breathes heavily from behind his mask as he approaches the back porch where Kristen sits. This again felt like Michael Myers, the heavy breathing. She hears his breathing and takes her small window of opportunity to run away from the house. She sprints into the trees, still barefoot, but she quickly takes a nasty fall and has to drag herself along the ground, having immediately injured herself.
What is this fall?
I don't know, and I don't really know what she hurts either.
It looks like there's like a ditch
okay.
where she falls into and I guess hits her shins. I don't know.
I don't know if it's
She's
her
caught
foot
in
or
hell
her
now.
leg.
I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I don't know if it's the angle or what, but it looks so painful.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm just like, how is this happening? But I
Yeah.
guess it's...
That's how. She cries in pain, but when she hears another gunshot and glass shattering, she stops. She crawls quickly through the trees, panting as she goes along. She's completely oblivious, though, to Pinup Girl following close behind her, walking in plain sight. Kristen falls on her face, and when she picks herself back up to continue crawling, there is no one chasing her.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yes!
And I will say, it's a pet peeve of me, and I know it makes me a little contradictory. I like in some moments being able to be aware of things that the characters are not.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever he lurches out of the thing in the doorway and he's all blurry.
Yeah.
But I feel like this following her, like literally not even 2 feet away from her, and her still crawling like mad and not knowing any of it.
Yeah.
It just feels very, I don't know, there's something cheap about it that I don't like.
What makes it cheap is her being gone.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what
That.
makes it cheap.
And to have no reaction. If somebody is stalking me, not even a foot away from me, I'm going to hear that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what it makes me think of, because I thought about this when I was watching it too. So realistically, if this is supposed to be just people and whatever, there's nothing supernatural.
Yeah.
Your panting, hiding behind that tree is still as possible. That's funny in itself.
Yeah.
But that, because you're not a ghost. How the fuck did you get away that fast?
Also true.
So you have to just stand still and just.
Yeah.
I hope she's scared. It's like, well,
Leslie Vernon.
Yeah.
that's. I'm sorry, that's not scary. It's like, come on.
But she makes it to the barn and, staying crouched to the ground, pulls a flashlight down from a shelf. She whispers James's name and she doesn't get a response. But when she shines her new flashlight around, she does see a spot for an axe sitting empty on the pegboard.
And that feels like Evil Dead.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yes. She pulls herself to her feet and limps deeper into the dark barn, tension mounting as she makes a worrying amount of noise along the way. When she hears loud clanging behind her, she turns, but nothing reveals itself to her. When she turns back around, she finds the radio that James was talking about and rushes over to it. Clearly not knowing what she's doing, she turns the knobs and flips switches. When she hears static, she whispers a hello into the microphone. No one responds, and Kristen begins to sob, asking if anyone can hear her. She continues trying, but when she hears a voice and loud clanging, she drops down and gets very quiet. The strange noises outside the barn don't stop. The clattering gets louder, and it's joined by creaking and sprinting footsteps. Kristen listens intently to all the sounds coming from all directions as she shakes with fear.
Better watch out, gonna get kicked in the face.
Yeah.
He's coming. A red light shines from the radio and a voice crackles from the speaker. Kristen snatches the microphone back up, ignoring the sounds around her, and asks if the voice can hear her. As soon as she makes contact, Pinup Girl rises from the shadows of the barn. As Kristen asks the voice on the other end for help, Pinup Girl brings down the axe on the radio hard. As sparks fly, Kristen stares at her in fear before running away.
This infuriates me because there are so many things that can be said instead of what she's saying.
Yep.
She's like, how many candles are you burning?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what's your 20? No, what's your 20? Where are you?
God damn, dude. I thought the same thing. I'm like, come on, unless your mixtape is fire, you don't need to be. Look, I'm in an abandoned house, whatever, blah, blah.
Yes.
My boyfriend brought me to wherever, but no, it's like, hello, breaker, can you hear me? It's like,
Are your ears on?
yeah.
No, it's really fucking frustrating. This moment, too, was the other thing that Laura Margolis said that the stunt person did was the swinging of the axe.
Okay.
Was that she's holding it and then they cut away and then the stunt person swings it, but you could tell she wanted to swing it. But she also said that she was under strict instruction because, again, the four of them had been working together for a week before she came, not to let Liv Tyler see her in her mask at all. Liv Tyler did not want to see Pinup Girl until she's with her in a scene.
That's
okay.
really cool.
Yeah.
And she said that she scared the hell out of her and that Liv Tyler actually kicked out at her. And she was like, so I guess I did a good job. Outside, Kristen is crawling hastily again, this time away from the barn as sounds of destruction continue behind her.
Real quick, if I may. For me, what kind of took me out of this going back outside, it kind of felt like the way the editing was done, like they had cut and inserted the scene where she's in the barn, because when she's outside crawling, it looks like she's still there from before that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? You couldn't run out. You're in there. I know you did hurt your legs, but we don't know if she broke a bone or if it's that bad.
Well, and she does run out. She runs away in the barn
and then she's crawling
again.
And it doesn't make any sense after what you just saw.
Yeah.
You saw this pinup doll person
Yes.
smashing this thing with a fucking axe.
Yeah.
Let me get back down on the ground and
Yeah, let me throw myself.
No.
And she knows you're here.
Yeah, she was just right there.
Yeah, hiding's not really doing much for you.
No, I'm dragging, even if my leg's broken, I'm dragging it behind me and going as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Not Solid Snake.
I was going to say, they go lift up that car. Don't say manhunt. But with the back door of the house straight in front of her, she hides cautiously. A quick glance around the trees reveals the man in the mask, standing alone and watching. He doesn't see her, but at the sight of him, she drops back down, flat onto the ground, and a twig breaks loudly. The man steps away, and he is lost in the shadows. Kristen starts to crawl toward the house again, and a nervous glance behind her reveals Pinup Girl stepping out of the barn.
I wrote something very foolish here in my notes.
Oh, God.
I said, I feel like Pinup Girl is not appreciated as much as she should be. She's cooler than Dollface by a country mile. I don't even talk like that.
Not a country mile.
Took the weed out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It's the Merle Haggard.
I think listening to too much of this. I think.
By a country mile. Let's go have some Bluebell. The swing set creaks and we see Dollface on it, swinging slightly. Kristen hurries forward, but stops when she sees that James's car is engulfed in flames.
She reacts.
That was a lot.
She reacts to this a little too much. Your car was already done.
Yeah.
It was their car, right? It wasn't Mike's, because Mike was out on the street.
And just as well, where did Mike park? Because how would they see? Again, this is what I'm saying. It's fitting into my fan fiction. Because if he's not parked directly in front of the house, how the fuck would they know to throw a brick at his goddamn window?
Yeah, because even if he's at the end of the driveway, the way they're trying to make it seem is like it's still a little bit a drive away from the house.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't either. But she breaks down and sobs.
She's like, oh no, the car that was already totaled is now on fire. Yeah.
And, well, I was going to say you didn't have the keys, but...
You weren't going anywhere in that car.
car.
But when she turns back to the barn in the swing set, Pinup Girl and Dollface are gone. Kristen brings herself painfully to her feet and hops back to the house on one foot. She continues to hop around the house, making an insane amount of noise as she bumps into shelves and knocks things over. As she makes her way past Mike's body in the hallway, she bumps a hanging picture and the glass shatters when it hits the ground. Suddenly, the electricity shuts off, leaving the fireplace in the living room the only source of light. She looks around the house with wide, fearful eyes, noticing the piano pushed in front of the door, ruined by the man in the mask with his axe. She continues forward, but stops in her tracks when she hears a gentle melody being played on the piano. She looks in that direction, terrified, just in time to see the man in the mask step into frame. He breathes heavily and his boots mark his every move, but Kristen just steps back out of his line of sight. When he heads down the hallway, she hides in the kitchen pantry, making a little more sound.
Yeah. I will say the slats in the pantry, very reminiscent of the closet in Halloween.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hearing this, the man in the mask heads back that way. His footsteps are achingly slow as Kristen watches crying from the slats in the pantry.
Now, I do want to say, and I think this, I noticed this, so I'm sure you did as well, T. Where's James at? I know we seen him get kicked, but
yeah. Interesting.
Now
Very.
we're starting to see everybody show up or whatever, and where
Somehow.
are you? Yeah.
The man seems to look right at her before turning away and heading into the kitchen. There, he pulls out a chair at the table and takes a seat in front of the melted tub of Bluebell still sitting on the table.
I thought he was going to take a drink of that.
I would have loved
Yeah.
if he did. But he's like, man, kicking people in the face is tired work. you gotta fucking give me a minute. Kristen cries quietly as she watches him, but after his short rest, he stands back up and she holds her breath. She breathes again when he disappears down the hallway, but when she brings her face to the slats to peer out into the living room, Dollface jumps into view and Kristen screams. Dollface bangs on the slats, breaking them as she pulls on the door, but Kristen holds the door closed, screaming. When Dollface gives up and walks away from the pantry, Kristen cowers on the floor. But for some reason, she opens the pantry and steps out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing that could get you to step out is the delicious flavor of Bluebell.
Of homemade
of
vanilla.
homemade vanilla Bluebell ice cream. That's good, even melted, I'd say.
It's the homemade country way.
By a country mile. She finds Dollface standing in the kitchen, holding the ring box she picked up from the table. She caresses it lovingly with her fingers, but her head snaps in Kristen's direction when she steps into view. Kristen warns, he's gonna kill you. But Dollface just looks back at her in silence as she rests her fingers on the knife left on the kitchen table. Is she talking about Man in the Mask or James?
I think
Yeah.
James, but James is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
No. And it felt like he stepped away and she's like, dude, he's after her. It's like,
Yeah.
Kristen, she's not on your team.
You were looking for your friend Tamara, right? I can help you find her. Just,
She's here the whole time.
yeah.
You came to the wrong house, dude. These people have been terrorizing. They're fucking crazy. As Dollface lifts the knife from the table, Kristen pulls open the drawer next to her and rummages around before pulling out a much smaller knife. Dollface is like, you call that a knife?
Really?
No, she doesn't.
She is Australian.
She
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think you did. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but armed, she slowly starts to walk towards Kristen. In a shaky whisper, Kristen asks her, why are you doing this to us? Dollface doesn't answer. Instead, she scrapes the knife along the counter as she moves closer and closer. Behind her, James is pushed through the open door and falls onto the floor in a heap. Behind James, the man in the mask struts in holding the shotgun. I don't know why this reminded me of when they bring in Sydney's dad and Scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's funny.
It does.
Yeah.
Kristen's eyes dart between them and Dollface, who is steadily and slowly coming closer. From behind her mask, she tells Kristen quietly, you're gonna die. Kristen finally turns and hobbles away. She looks at the broken front door on her way, but sees Pinup Girl looming in the jagged crack. She makes her way down the hall and shuts the door to the bedroom. Once there, she tries to open the window very loudly before just banging on it and screaming at the top of her lungs to be let out. James screams her name from the living room, and this brings Kristen out of her panic. The door is slowly pushed open and creaks on its hinges, and Kristen screams back at James, but freezes when the electricity suddenly comes back on. Trembling with panic, Kristen slowly steps into the hallway, only for the man in the mask to come running. He grabs her and slams her against the wall, immediately knocking her out. So this is just his role, as he just knocks him out.
It's a very abrupt and unsatisfying conclusion.
Well, because it's like, why do we even run into the bed? Like, what was any of this for?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the fact that she ran away to somewhat seeming safety and James was the one calling her name that brought her back.
Yes.
Yeah.
He turns around and drags her unconscious body down the hall and toward the living room. She starts to wake up as she passes Mike's body and tries to grab onto the door frame to keep from being dragged, but it's no use. The man in the mask continues to wheeze as he pulls her steadily back into the living room. Kristen tries to hold on to the walls, her blood-slick hands unable to grab on. And when she's pulled past the hallway, she digs her nails into the wooden floor, but the man continues to pull her. Just as Kristen is pulled out of frame, she lets loose a blood-curdling scream, and it cuts to black. When we glide through the darkness, we see that in the living room, James is confined to a chair with his hands tied in front of him.
So this, I think we've all been thinking it, narratively, it would just be a lot more interesting if James was in on this somehow.
Yeah.
My theory, my little fan fiction situation, what I thought is she rejects his marriage proposal, and this is his terrifying, horrifying plan B.
Yeah.
And the reason that she rejects his marriage proposal is because she's cheating on him with Mike.
Oh, okay.
That's why he called Mike over. That's why he's setting everything up. That's why he kills Mike, because he planned this whole thing.
Yeah.
The man in the mask is his accomplice. So are Dollface and the pinup girl. They lead him into the house. They push him down the hallway, basically.
Yeah.
To his death. James keeps disappearing for no reason.
For no fucking reason.
It makes way more sense narratively.
And like you said, he's the one that called her back in there out of the bedroom.
And whenever we see Mike's body, Kristen takes it very hard.
Yeah, she does.
And I understand the fact of seeing a dead body and a person that you know is obviously very horrifying.
Yeah.
But that would make sense because he does kind of tackle her and he's like, no, don't. So it's maybe him trying to hold his anger, and that is good.
I like that a lot. I didn't flesh it out that deeply. I was just basically like, I would think that if I did not know this movie, I would think that James was orchestrating this.
Yeah.
Because it's so foolish. And the minute that he leaves, shit starts happening to her. And then Mike's dead. Well, I'm going to go outside by myself. You stay here.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird.
And
like,
they're not really doing anything to them yet. They're really just toying with them and playing with them.
Yeah.
It's like you're waiting until morning to have this moment.
Yeah. It would have been, but again, that undermines of the whole point of this film.
Yeah.
But that would have been, I just think that the way that James is in this movie, that serves him better.
Yes.
It doesn't serve the story better,
No.
but it's because he's just, it's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You're exactly right, because it does solve that problem of the character, but at the same time, everything that makes this film scary would be gone.
Yeah.
Because what is about to happen is the most iconic thing in it.
Absolutely.
And you couldn't say any of that.
No.
Yeah.
But outside, the sun is shining over the oblivious neighborhood and the ruined front door is wide open. Kristen is tied up in her own chair, but is now wearing her pale purple dress from the wedding. When we pan out, her chair is positioned right next to James's, who is also dressed nicely with his suit jacket back on.
Isn't it strange? Like, I understand you can throw a jacket on somebody. They changed her clothes completely.
Yeah.
Which, again, seems a little too personal.
Yeah, it does. Kristen strains against her bindings, but finally stops struggling. Standing in front of them are the strangers. The man in the mask is in the middle, flanked on either side by Dollface and Pinup Girl. Kristen and James stare up at them fearfully, and they gaze back from behind their bland, expressionless masks. Her voice a trembling whisper, Kristen asks again, "Why are you doing this to us?" Dollface provides the answer, flat, matter of fact, and muffled by her mask. "Because you were home."
That's amazing.
I just got goosebumps saying it. It still scares me.
Yeah.
There are moments of this film that do not work for me anymore, and a lot of the magic isn't necessarily there anymore. This still scares me. Like, it is still a scary premise. Man in the mask looks over at her before Pinup Girl walks away out of sight. Kristen starts to struggle again, but stops when James takes her hand, which is still wearing the declined engagement ring. The two lock eyes, both of their faces streaked with blood. Kristen tells James softly that she loves him before starting to sob. Dollface crouches down and sets her knife onto the plush carpet. She removes her mask, and when we see her in a wider shot, her jacket is suddenly gone too. Kristen averts her eyes, crying harder as Pinup Girl removes her own mask. Looking at the two of them, Man in the Mask follows suit and pulls the bag off of his head.
When you have been tormented all night and these assailants take off their masks, one of two things. One,
we're dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you've seen our faces, that's it.
Well, yeah.
Two is you know us.
Okay.
And the fact that they don't, I feel like the taking off of the masks is, I don't know. It's not like we're the trick-or-treaters you guys ran over.
Oh my God.
10 years ago or something.
Yeah, that's
true.
We're
back.
I get that. I feel like it's just the fact of we're not you've seen our faces. You're not getting out of this.
Yeah.
Like, you're dead. It's over.
I figured that, though.
Yeah. Hey, and at least they're not
They're like, no, run along.
We've had our fun.
They don't have animal masks.
Oh,
There you go.
I don't know what the fuck those are.
Who's who?
Yeah.
You can't
See,
keep
a
up with
bear and
that.
an octopus, I think. I don't. Fox, maybe?
The sinister masks are abandoned around the room, and the man stoops down to pick up Dollface's abandoned knife. As he takes it in his hand, Kristen begs him not to do this. She tells him frantically that they can stop now and go. They don't have to do this. She cries and screams, begging them to listen to her, while James just sits there.
He's like, do what you can do.
Yeah. Like, do your worst. It's like, no.
Dude, he's like Schrader. He's like, you don't understand, Kristen. He made his mind up 5 minutes ago. You're the smartest person I've ever met.
You still don't understand. Kristen continues to plead, but without warning, the man plunges the knife into James's gut. So now it's like, okay, you weren't
Yeah.
unless it's a Billions 2 situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In that interview, Kip Weeks said that they had him hold a real knife, and then as he approached, he's supposed to set it down and pick up the fake one and stab him with it. And he said he was so nervous and anxious that he was going to fuck it up and still have the real one.
Yeah.
That it was very difficult for him.
I bet.
Kristen screams, and we see from outside the house the streets are still quiet and deserted. James reacts in shock and pain as he is stabbed again. He presses his forehead against Kristen's, and she whispers to him, trying to be a comfort. But Pinup Girl takes the knife from the man and stabs James in the chest. I'm not laughing, but it's just
I was
James
laughing.
over and over again.
Yeah.
I was laughing at you laughing.
It's like on King of the Hill when Bill got
knew it.
slapped twice.
I will say I love these exterior shots.
Yeah.
I feel like I will say, though, because the look of the street lamps, this street does feel a little more populated
Yes.
than it seems or needs to be.
Yeah.
But I do like the cutaways.
Yeah.
Kristen continues pleading, but it breaks off in a scream when Dollface stabs her in the gut through her pretty dress. From outside the house, we hear Kristen's begs and screams. The two Mormon boys from the beginning walk their bikes along the road. They slow down when a red Ford truck pulls up next to them, going the opposite way. The truck stops, and Dollface gets out and walks over to the boys. She eyes their Christian living pamphlets and asks if she can have one. One of the boys asks if she's a sinner, and while the other one looks uncomfortable, Dollface answers simply, "Sometimes." Without any further questions, the boy hands her a pamphlet. Dollface climbs back in the truck and takes her seat between the man in the mask and pinup girl. As she settles in, she assures her cohorts, "It'll be easier next time." The truck drives away and the boys continue down the street.
The heck do you mean?
Yeah.
You made it difficult.
What do you mean?
It'll be easier next time? Nothing was difficult. You did that.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So, the original ending, according to Laura Margolis, which they, again, like I said, they shot and test audiences were like, we don't like it. They said that it was very long and drawn out and very personal, and that when they showed it, it made Laura Margolis cry because it was so intense, this ending. They're face to face. You see all of the strangers' faces. They're talking to them. When Pinup Girl stabs James in the original ending, she whispers to him that she's sorry. She said that in that ending, she was the most emotional one. The man in the mask was the most committed one, and Dollface was kind of the most excited and shocked that they were actually doing this. Like, they each kind of were like in this really intense moment as they're killing them, which does feel more Manson-esque to me.
Okay.
But in that original ending, they walk around, they clean up a little bit, they take their clothes. And if you are paying attention at the end when she's talking to these boys, she's wearing Liv Tyler's outfit with the fucking plaid shirt and jeans.
Oh.
And I never noticed that until
not at
watching
all.
it this time.
Yeah.
But they take their clothes that they brought with them. So even in the truck, they're wearing Kristen and James's clothes. But the test audiences watched it and they said that they didn't like it, and they didn't like that you could see their faces. And so this whole time, the three of them thought that their faces were in the end of this film.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I guess Bertino called and was like, "We're changing it." And so they had to change some things, obviously, about the ending, but it was a lot more intense, a lot more drawn out. And maybe that's her kind of consoling Pinup Girl. Next time we do this, it won't be so hard for you. Like, you won't be so sad.
I guess that makes more sense.
But again, that's
in
not
this?
in this.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but hold on, because she busted the radio.
She did.
She hit them with the truck a few times.
She did.
I mean, you don't seem like you weren't having a good time.
Well,
Like,
and as I said, they had developed this backstory for themselves, and they had agreed that this was not the first time that they had done this before, the terrorizing and the hurting and the destroying shit, but it was the first time they killed someone.
Okay.
And so this is old hat for them, kind of the torturousness and the chasing, but they'd never fully finished it before. And so taking it to that next level, maybe she was like, oh,
Yeah.
I get that, and I do think that the line implies sequel as well,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But I'm kind of torn on whether or not to see their faces. I guess it doesn't matter
Yeah.
to see their faces if we don't know who they are, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would be, if they could find a way to make it to where who they are matters,
Right.
then the faces should be in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had talked about, Kip Weeks said that he kind of saw them, the three of them, as having a natural born killers type relationship. He had said that for him, his motivation for Man in the Mask was that the Man in the Mask is in a desensitized world, and he's trying to reestablish feelings of guilt and sorrow by experiencing violence firsthand.
Okay.
Gemma Ward said that Dollface isn't trying to say anything. She only wants to control and dominate a situation for the first time in her life. And Laura Margolis said that Pinup Girl has no power in her real life and only has the nerve and the bravery and the anger because she's behind her mask.
It's very interesting. It would have been nice to see any of that.
Yeah. On the cool.
And Kip Weeks also said that in his mind, Dollface was the leader and that he and Pinup Girl were the cohorts. They were the muscle.
Really?
I disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't get that.
No.
No,
I feel like she's the one that's sent by them to ring the doorbell.
she's the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Glenn Howerton had said that in his mind, the strangers get away because they were talking about like what happens after this, because there is a little bit more movie left, but that's the end of the strangers when they drive away.
Yeah.
He said that in his mind, he doesn't think they ever get caught because he doesn't want them to get caught.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Kip Weeks even said that it is crucial and important to the film that they don't. That this has a beginning and a middle, but it doesn't have an end.
Mm-hmm.
That he thinks in a few months they're going to meet up and they're going to do this again.
Okay.
Or maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. But we see the boys as we saw them at the beginning, through the heart-shaped hole in James's windshield. After abandoning their bikes in the road, they head into the house. Rose petals are scattered across the floor. The record hisses quietly in the player, and the walls are splattered with blood, and a bloody knife rests on the ground. The shotgun sits ominously on the kitchen counter. The boys look down at James's motionless body, his half-lidded eyes open but seeing nothing. They find Kristen lying on her back. Her once pale purple dress is now red and pink. Still clutching his pamphlets, the nervous boy reaches out as he crouches down. He reaches for her slowly, but just before he can touch her, her eyes open and she grabs his wrist, screaming at the top of her lungs. It cuts to black and the credits roll. Before I ask the customary question, TRDC, you shaking your head, I completely agree. Laura Margolis said that in her mind, Kristen dies right after that. That the scream was the last ounce of anything she had left, and then she dies.
That's more palatable for the film, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just feels like one of those moments. I don't really like those moments in where they're like, send them home screaming.
Yeah.
The audience, like, this is just for the audience, and now I'm out of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such a heavy and sad and horrible ending. And so I don't know if this was to give some hope that I don't know what this was for. I'll tell you what it wasn't for. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't for us.
Yes.
But I have to ask, so what did you guys think of The Strangers?
So I do enjoy some of the movie, what it does and what's going on. And I can understand how, having nostalgia and watching the movie a lot, or even just, forgiving a lot of what it does. I think for me, this only being the second time that I've seen it, maybe the third time, it's still like I said, when I first watched it, I knew, I was like, man, something just doesn't sit right. You know what I mean? I was like, something just was like, oh, maybe it's just a new movie, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then watching it again for the show and stopping and kind of looking at things critically and like even narratively, it's like, what? It's like, what's going on here? The cliche boyfriend stuff. Like the dude was like, for me, I'm like, you can't be this dumb. You're doing the whole, we should separate. Why? Why do we need to? Because we need us to be in separate places. There is no reason for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't believe you. Why don't you believe her? You guys just experienced that weird stranger going on. And when you were on the phone with her, you knew she was on the landline. The landline got cut. Why are you not calling her cell phone or hurrying home to go back be there?
Yeah.
It's that... There's no sense of awareness. Even if this is somewhere you guys have visited before, y'all have been there, this is your family or your friend's property or anything,
Mm-hmm.
there isn't the, oh, I know, let's go over here. I know we do get the, oh, my dad has a shotgun up here somewhere. But even that, it's like I haven't been here in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so are you remembering this shit from when you were 12 or were you here last summer? Like what, you guys were just here setting all this up. The way some of the cuts are, her being on the floor mainly, it was very funny.
Mainly.
It was very funny. That, and then you touched on it, T, and it does, the more we talked about it, play a bigger role in why some of the stuff doesn't work, is them being humans or ghosts. It's the back and forth of what they're able to do in a human capacity, or like it's very, again, yes, we all know Leslie's training videos and what he sends us through, but again, this does feel like when she taps him in the car, How did nobody see that?
Yeah.
Or how did he not turn around and she's still running away? Are you here? Even if we just heard footsteps or something running away, okay, I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
But then this is just like, was that a ghost? What the fuck? It was just kind of weird for me. And again, if you like the movie, I get it. But for me, it's just those things that kept coming and that were, I guess, mixing up what was happening. I was like, I'm not having a good time.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I really feel very in the middle on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I have that nostalgia for it from having seen it as a teenager and watching it a lot.
Yeah.
But then there are also these feelings of coming back to it as an adult and watching it and just being like, some of these scares, the way that they're crafted, simply do not work.
Yeah.
But then there's these other scares that are like so pitch perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This section with Mike,
Yes.
It's great.
it's so good. But then you do have that thing in the car, and then you have the thing with the pinup girl smashing the radio, and then Liv Tyler's like, well, we get her crawl away. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Run! She
Yeah.
has an axe.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Where is your urgency?
Right. It's Jackie Torrance back there, dude. You've got to go. Like,
guess.
you need to run.
We'll take the scenic route.
Yeah.
But then there are certain moments that just work absolutely. There are aspects of it, like the music, that is just so perfectly done.
Mm-hmm.
And you do enjoy a lot of it. It is a very fun watch if you just sit there and watch it.
Yes.
It is a very fun thriller. But when you start to dig and you're like, man, these characters don't mean anything.
Yeah.
This narrative, what narrative?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That.
And so there are parts that do stick out to where you're like, you know what? I am happy to revisit this. It's fun. I understand completely why people adore it. But then you're like, not as fresh as I recall.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I still have a lot of love for this film. I still like this film.
Yeah.
It has lost some of the magic for me, looking a little bit deeper, looking at character motivations and realizing that these characters are not as deep as I thought they were. And really just James, like you said, John Paul, leaning into the dumb boyfriend, dumb husband that just doesn't believe their partner. It's one of my least favorite things. Yeah. But he's going into the bin of useless men in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's so annoying. It's just annoying. I think that the premise of this is still very frightening.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of nostalgia for it. The way that it seeped in, the way that I've incorporated it into my daily life as a warning of, bitch, don't let them catch you slipping. And I won't, because I saw this when I was fucking however old, and it got in. It genuinely scared me. Even me reading Because You Were Home, it gave me chills because it is fucking scary. Mm-hmm. I think this concept, this fear, like you were saying earlier, T, of I should feel safe here. Mm-hmm. This is my space. This is my home. And somebody invading that and exploiting that just fucking because, that will never not be scary to me. I'm just rambling. I can kind of slide into ratings as well. This one is a really hard one for me to rate because I do still have a lot of love for it. I watched it so much when I was younger. I would watch it again. I mean, I will watch it again. Mm-hmm. I still really like it. There are parts of it that still fucking scare me. There are parts of it where I'm like, no, Mike, say it's me, Mike. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still invested in some moments, but there are other moments where it's just like, what do you mean stay here? What do you mean? No, your phone's in your bag. Oh, so you think I'm a fucking child? You think I'm a dumb child that I didn't like? It's really, really frustrating. The whole, you won't marry me. Meh. Like that it's very annoying to me as an adult looking back. The audacity of this man to propose at a wedding. I'm still upset about that. Mm-hmm. Just aspects of that I did not fully grasp watching this when I was younger that are kind of glaring issues to me now. A lot of these moments that kind of feel inconsequential, like the running from the barn, the hilariousness of James being kicked out by being knocked out by being kicked in the face. He was kicked out.
Yeah, he was.
And again, the anticlimacticness of it all, of Kristen just being slammed into a wall and knocked out. It's like the sun's coming up. We gotta fucking, you know what I mean? But again, there are moments of him stepping out of that hallway and her not knowing that he's there that have stayed with me. I mean, how old is this?
16 years?
It stayed with me.
Yeah.
Never forgot those moments. Never forgot truly the lessons that this film has taught me. But I know that there are a lot of issues, and they're major issues. But Glenn Howerton's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
JP
That's
already
right.
said that's a point.
Oh, yeah. That's a full ass point.
Every con, I'm like, but, you know, Liv Tyler's performance is incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody pulls their weight. It's not like, well, Scott Speedman was like,
No.
I don't like his character. He did a great job.
He did.
Everybody ate. Everybody did what they were supposed to do.
They ate Bluebell.
They ate Bluebell. And I mean, there's nothing better. Homemade vanilla. I am torn because there are so many aspects of this that really stayed with me my entire adulthood that I still think about, that still scare me. But looking at the film as a whole, there are aspects where it just does not deliver for me at all. And that ending,
Yeah.
the very, very end, it doesn't let us sit in the horrificness of what happened.
Yeah.
You don't need to jump scare us before the credits. You just don't need to. It makes an ass out of me and you.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But yeah, still lots of love for the movie. Forever I will have love for this movie. But again, as an adult, I see the issues. So I am a little generous with my score. A lot of that is nostalgia. A lot of that is having iconic moments that I have never forgotten in fucking 16 years. You deserve some flowers for that.
Oh, yeah.
And again, Glenn Howerton.
Mm-hmm.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, malicious masked menaces, I'm going to generously give The Strangers 7.5 maliciously masked menaces. I don't know that it deserves as a film to be quite that high, but to me, it does for the reasons that I just said.
You showed your work.
I did, if you'll look here. But I will now open up the floor to you.
I know I said all the things that I did have a problem with, but the same things you guys keep saying are good about it. They did. All the performances were great. Those silent scares, like you said, when we see him in the background, that's good. The whole scene with Mike, the beginning of the movie, like it is just those other inconsistencies or the like having to separate. Why? We need to separate. Why?
Yeah.
Her telling him, hold on, don't go out there. You know, there's shit has already happened. And then him being like, but why? Dude, we've already experienced at least 2 different things that have happened for you to, why would you ask why? Clearly, even if not, I'm frightened.
Yes.
Why the fuck are you trying to leave me every chance you get?
Unless.
Yeah. And for me, I think if you want to do this and it's not, if you want to keep this, I feel like it might have worked a little better. And if maybe if say that this is that these are an older couple already, maybe Mel Gibson and somebody else, because he's gonna die later. You know what I mean?
I was like, Mel Gibson.
Well, he dies later, so he gets it first.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's all right. But you know what I mean? Have them even that. They come from a night out, something's wrong, he goes to the store to get them a snack or something or anything. They're dating and he wants to get married and she's like, no, we've already lived lives. You know, let's just have fun, dude. And then there's a little fight, gets him away back, whatever. Anything to make it fix. I mean, the movie's not bad. It's just I guess it's just the way that it goes about the story. It's just so weird.
I was going to propose Kurt Russell, but Kurt Russell would never let this shit happen.
Oh,
no.
yeah, no. Macaroni's not doing
I
it.
wouldn't believe it in a second.
But I do enjoy what the movie does and what it has brung. You know what I mean? But for me, I don't think I can go that high.
Understandably.
For Dennis, I gave it the point. You know what I mean? Even I was thinking about 2. But then dude shot him, and I was like, damn,
Not enough screen time.
But for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, malicious masked menaces, I'm gonna give The Strangers a 6.5. I like what was going on here. I do enjoy what they're doing in the scares. And like you said, T, and really watching it the second time, you do notice I don't even want to say absence of the music, but you said it perfectly. It flows so good. It is just atmosphere. You can hear it when it needs to be there, and you don't when you don't need to hear it. And everything, and it helps sell the tension, the scares, the feeling of what's going on. Now, if we could just get a better or tighter little story going on here, maybe some more character background, anything other than what's going on. Him being mad about that, and the extreme that it went to. It was kind of like, come on, really, dude?
No, I agree. I feel like I would just be repeating both of you a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I really want to say is that I feel like nostalgia is a powerful thing to a point, of course. But I feel like whenever this came out and we watched it, there was something different about it in 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something very special about it that latched onto you, and you kept thinking about it.
Yeah.
You return to it in your mind. You return to it on DVD, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I just feel like at my big age, as Nay says, I respect it and I appreciate a lot of it, but then there are parts that just do not work.
Yeah.
And I have said enough about the negatives, I feel. But I like the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I like the music. I like the cinematography, the performances, as you said. I love these masks.
Yeah.
The design of these villains and the way that they move, the way that they operate, the way they slink into frame, sometimes. The way that they are noticed and unnoticed, sometimes.
Yeah.
The way they sprint and then knock you out.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. No, I don't know. I just feel like so much of it is hit or miss, and it's kind of upsetting.
Yeah.
Because whenever you look at it as a narrative, there is so much more that could have been done with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, we don't have to flesh out and figure out exactly who these strangers are. But if we do have a reason to say why James is acting like this, maybe be a little subversive with this old-ass trope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that would be more successful for me. It does undermine the potential of that amazing line at the end.
Right.
So I understand, it's give or take. It's very difficult. But I will say that just like you, I will watch this again. I am very interested. There are apparently a trilogy of the Strangers films coming out in the next year.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'll be there. And is it Do the Deep Blue Sea?
Yes, it is.
I'll be there.
Wow, okay.
I'm sad.
I'll give it a watch.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But for me, on a scale from 1 to 10 malicious masked menaces, I am also going to give The Strangers a 6.5 out of 10. I came here with a 6, but Glenn Howerton.
Of course. The golden guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's all from us at Podmortem. What would you rate The Strangers and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at The Podmortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like our Stirhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at TravisMWH. Thanks again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll get access to bonus content, our monthly schedule, our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. Stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, a trusting nature is priceless, but there's true value in knowing exactly when to shut and lock the door. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo! Yeah!
Yeah! A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Thomas, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Will Brown, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhard, Armand Spasto, Aaron Nagari, Eggy, William Barry, Brittany Seaman, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Jordan Blevins, Liz Heath, Spencer Montavo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Nuding, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Leisha Olivier, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Brittany G, Dave Burke, Adrian Stakes, Daniel McGinnis, Nick Spill, Emma Hagel-Kissinger,
Valerie G, Emiliana, Brian Glass, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer, Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Kyle, OKC, Danielle Peralta, Brandon, Nicholas Carter, Sawyer Reese Farr, Dr. Diva Loves Horror, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Natalie de Guzman, Eileen O, Marissa E, Sydney, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanovan, Katie K, Erica Morin, Cameron S, Nicole Stewart, Triss Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Carrie A, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murder Stina, No Thanks Tom Hanks, Kevin McGonigal, Kristen Marcy, Ori81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez63,
Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Jen Lassiter, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Valerie K, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities, Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith, Autumn Green, Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Cassidy Carruthers, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S, Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Jen T, Kim H, August, Vengeance Spirit, Sam J. Green, Kelly Glazyface Mac, Jenny May, Zoe Marie, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D, Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J, Daniel Dickerson, Jordan Gaddis, Cam Davies, Tanya Selvog, Patrick Hoagland, Raven, King Roger, D, Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Spencer, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Nisi Nay, Erica, and Jason X Rules. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you.
And you may ask yourself, why do we make these episodes? The answer? Because y'all are here.
Yeah.
Did that give you goosebumps?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Until next time.